Hello again, everybody. You're listening to the Total Basis Podcast. I am your Felipe, your host, and with me is my good friend Harry Siberian from the Northeast. How you doing, Harry?
I'm good, brother. How you been?
I'm all right, man. Like I mentioned off air, I'm a little I think I'm getting a little under the weather, which is I'm gonna be devastated if I am because I spent the entire year this year in 2024 without getting sick. So I like to keep it that way. So we'll see how I feel the rest of the day. But we continue on, we march on, have a little bit of talk about projections. It's pretty. I didn't realize that things like numbers and statistics and projections would be such a controversial thing, but here we are in 2024, and that's all I get from people every time I try to share anything of this ilk is just controversy from folks who, think that spreadsheets and numbers and statistics are just are taking away our rights to enjoy baseball the way God made it to enjoy baseball. And it's I've been doing this since 2013, man. For just sharing my work and from a statistical viewpoint, whereas my old editor used to say from a statistical lens. And that's all. It's a lot of pushback from folks like, why do I have to do this? And why, so you're just gonna do whatever the projections tell you to do? Like, no, not necessarily. But the way I see projections is because I think the problem is a lot of people they think about projections, Harry, and they think of it as Bible. They think of it as the end all be all, and it's not. They're just the way I see them. It's a suggestion. And you've been listening to Ariel Cohen. I've been using Ariel Cohen's projections, his ATC projections for the last few years. The five consecutive times winner of the most accurate projections among all the projections that are used out there in both real life baseball and fantasy baseball. Um, he's been dominating that award that he has they had to create a separate category just for him because his projections are not, and I got to use my words carefully here, but they're not really his projections. They're an aggregate. He just adds his own little spin to it, but it's still a model that he utilizes where basically he the season has run a few times, and they're just for a lot of these baseball projections here. If you don't know, and if anybody else doesn't know, you're just taking what is the most likeliest of outputs that are going to occur in the upcoming season, and it's going to be a conservative figure always. It's always going to be a conservative figure for these players. They don't go too high, they don't go too low. They just go somewhere of the most likeliest scenario that's about to happen, and
But that's the word
that's
though, projection. It's
exactly.
a projection. Like I know I'm just getting back into baseball, but football is the same way. Like
Yeah.
you listen to whoever you listen to and they give you advice, and then you got to figure out what you feel
Hmm.
is the best move of action. You know, I
Bingo. Right
I
there.
got
You got it.
lucky. I got lucky with just, gut play. I mean, Joe Pollock can tell you, my partner, I literally just strategically took gambles in different areas of who I thought would do better. I always hated having like particular players that were almost the same because
Hmm.
then you didn't know which one would have the better weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's the same thing in baseball. Like you may have an innings eater and a pitcher, but does he perform in other areas better? It's just,
Probably not.
what I mean? Right, right. So yeah, so like it's a gamble to figure out how you want to go about it, and you got to trust your gut and see
Mhm.
what you think is right. Just because the projections put out there doesn't mean that it's going to benefit you. It's not a given.
Yeah, and I've drafted just based on sole projection as well. Like I've done it before where where I have used it as Bible and to mix results where the upside about it is you do get off to a good start in that aspect. The projections are right, but things that projections don't account for too often, sorry, not strikeouts, injuries, those happen to everybody. Upside players that might come up, minor league players that might come up to replace certain players, and so job insecurity. And they don't really, as much as they try to do their best, remember, these are conservative figures, so they don't go too high or too low. They don't really do a good job, from my experience, of predicting when that decline is going to come. Like I remember Miguel Cabrera, and the Statcast numbers from Miguel Cabrera a few years ago did justify, like, hey, if you can get him at a really good discount, Miguel Cabrera could still maybe can give you one more good season, one more good year. Because the Statcast data shows that he hits the ball really hard. That's the real data. So the projections are we're gonna gonna take those numbers and we're gonna see if he can duplicate some of the numbers that he's done in the past. But what I've noticed about these projections and the these guys will tell you the same thing, that is that they do favor veteran players who've been in this league for a bit or for a while, because there's more of a sample size. There's more of a data sample that they can configure into their projections. So you will get a Miguel Cabrera, even though he's old, fat, and up there in age, and probably not producing much. They will show, hey, Miguel Cabrera might hit 25 home runs this year, even though he probably will hit 12 home runs if he's lucky. And I honestly don't remember what he did in his final years, but I just remember that projections showed that he was that he had one more year in him, and I drafted him one year, and boy, was I disappointed. So
Yeah, but that's
that's
the gamble. That's the
that's the
gamble I was
gamble,
going
right?
with. Yeah.
That's the gamble. But I mean, that's what happens when you take these at Bible. Like like when I said, when I did it, I get off to good April, May, and maybe some June starts. But then the real conflict happens. What happens after June 1st? July, August, the dog days of summer. Well, those projected players that you were coveting, are they going to last the entirety of the season? So that's the game you play. And at the end, ultimately, because I can get blamed for all the things that you people make for your well, Felipe told me to pick this guy. Felipe told me to pick that guy. Like, I don't tell you to do anything. I tell you, these are guys that I want. It's up to you to figure out if you agree with me or not. Like, you have to make the final decision. I'm not there over your shoulder telling you what to do and what to pick. And we've been very consistent. Even when my old podcast partner Sean Flannery were on, that was the thing that we used to tell people. Yeah, you can. We're telling you upfront who we want on the draft. We were telling you upfront who we want. Can you hear me, Harry?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, it's kind of, I don't know what happened to my camera. Oh, what the hell? That's weird. Here we go. Yeah, okay, I'm back. I don't know what happened. I didn't press any buttons. But anyway, we tell you the guys that we want, who we draft, who we want off waivers, who we're interested in, who we like as minor league players, keeper players, things of that nature. But ultimately, you guys got to do what's best for you, and what modifications need to be made for your leagues and for your liking. I don't like Adolis Garcia. I avoid Adolis Garcia a lot, and people tell me I'm crazy for doing that. I don't care. I got to live with myself. At the end of the day, I cannot recommend players that I don't like. Like, yeah, Adolis Garcia gets you a ton of home runs and a lot of stolen bases, but Adolis Garcia also comes with the 300 on base percentage, which I told you the last time, Harry. I can't trust players who can't give me a bare minimum acceptable on base percentage. I can't do it. Can win with them, so I'll just win in another way. But if you guys want to get Adolis Garcia, by all means. I won't suggest it. I won't recommend it. But if you don't agree with me, by all means, go ahead. Go get Adolis Garcia, and if you win, that's fine. If you lose, well, that's on you as well. So you get the credit, you get your own credit and your own what do you call it? Your own desserts, just desserts, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I don't know.
Do you really
Go
get
ahead.
some people being combative with you about just projections and spreadsheets? Like,
Bro, I've
is
been
this
doing since 2013. Like, why are you giving me numbers? I literally had friends come on me say, "Well, see, that's your problem, is that you were counting on projections. You got to you got to trust your instincts and your gut and your this and your that." Like, well, what do you think I'm doing? Like, yeah, like I said, I had done it in the past, but lately, the last 3-5 years or so, I don't know. I can't keep track of this, especially since I started this podcast. The projections are just a guide. It's just a starting point for me. Everything else is just visual. Like, I can visualize Ronald Acuna last year being the player to get in a brand new keeper league or in a brand new dynasty league. And what happened with Ronald Acuna? Not even last year, it was 2 years ago, right after his knee injury. I go, despite the fact of the knee injury, if I were to start a franchise today, I would want Ronald Acuna. That had nothing to do with projections. Matter of fact, projections did not like him because of he was coming back from knee injury. What happened last year? A freaking monster of a season last year. And if you see the projections I sent you, he's supposed to not only dominate fantasy points leagues, but he's going to lap everybody around in fantasy points leagues with the 37 home runs and the 54 stolen bases. Now, again, that's a starting point. Do I believe Ronald Acuna could be the best player in fantasy points leagues this upcoming season? Yes, I do. In that regard, I do agree. So, but people will come at me and tell me, well, why do you got to do the projections? Well, so I'm just wondering, do you people really don't see Ronald Acuna being that type of player again? another 37 home runs, 54 stolen bases. Young player, plays for a really good team. He's being allowed to play to his own discretion. Like there's no stop sign on him from his manager, and the guy is the catalyst for that Atlanta Braves team. They go as far as he goes. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he's not only the that he can get that type of season, but he might just be the best player that you need to get across. And I'm not saying anything controversial, right, Harry? But the fact that I'm coming with the projections. Oh, here's Felipe again using projections, using these fancy schmancy numbers
I
since
mean,
2013, bro. That's been going on with me. And then I just put up with it. Like, all right, well, thanks for playing with me. I'll take your money. You guys, you people who play against me for most part, uh, subsidized my trip to Arizona last year for the World Baseball Classic. So I thank you for that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, it's from what I've learned the past month, I mean, Acuna is great, is superior for a roto league, let alone a head-to-head league. So because of the fact of the amount of stolen bases he gets, and he hits home runs, and the position he's playing, like it's unreal, like how great he is. So there's nothing wrong with him being number one, and your projections are pretty spot on from what I've heard from two other podcasts. So I don't know who's the crazy one here. Like I think people take this a little too far, but everywhere you look, he's the guy. Like I've talked to my old buddy Rich, who's a huge baseball guy. He's the number one guy, in fantasy baseball at the moment until something changes.
Yeah, I'm just double checking. I mean, he has to be number one. I haven't done just in the mock drafts alone. He's pretty much the best player that's off the. Yeah, Ronald Acuna, number one. Number two is Mookie Betts. Number three is Bobby Witt Jr. Kyle Tucker's number four, and Corbin Carroll is number five. And if you want to include Julio Rodriguez at number six, we could most definitely do that. There are some people joining us this morning. Jacob, I salute you as well, my brother. Thank you for joining us this morning. Good morning to Manuel Hernandez, a big Oakland A's fan. I think he's still an Oakland A's fan. I don't know. What do you do if you're an Oakland A's fan? Do you just you go wherever the Athletics go? I mean, are there any Philadelphia Athletic fans still out there? I don't know.
Is
But
that
good.
is that a done deal? They going to Las Vegas or
I've
what's going on
lost
with that?
track. I don't know. There's
Yeah, I
so
don't know.
much. I don't care anymore. You know
Go
what? At this
go
point, I believe it when I see it. That,
Going back to the mock drafts you just mentioned for a minute, the guys you all just mentioned, aren't those all guys that hit home runs and have stolen bases?
I'm sorry. What was that last part?
Those all those guys you just mentioned, the mock drafts were going. You said it was Acuna and then Mookie
Uh,
Betts and then Bobby
this.
Witt. Those guys all seem to have good home runs or better, plus high stolen bases. No,
Yeah, yeah. So I mean Acuna is projected to get 54 stolen bases. Was a Mookie Betts? Actually, he's gonna only projected to get 13 stolen bases, but 33 home runs, coupled with a 283 batting average. I guess that's what makes him a number two. Plus, he plays a premium position at second base. He automatically
right,
becomes the best second baseman out there. Kyle Tucker is a power speed combo as well. 31 home runs, 25 stolen bases. Bobby Witt Jr. 29 home runs, 41 stolen bases, but only a 328 on base percentage. But you know what? I'll live with that. I lived with it last year en route to a championship. I'll live with it again this year.
right.
Corbin Carroll, definitely 23 home runs, 45 stolen bases. And the last guy was Julio Rodriguez, projected to get 32 home runs and 32 stolen
32.
bases.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the top six are mostly outfielders who can get you power speed combinations. And that's the thing. That's the other thing that people get at me is like, well, Felipe doesn't even draft for stolen bases, which I don't. But I draft, I'm very picky and selective, just with saves. I don't just draft any closer because that's one of the things that you're asking here in one of your questions. So is what positions or what statistics, whether it be for hitters or pitchers, are scarce or will
Scarce
be
commodity, right?
scarce
Scarce
commodity or at
commodity.
a premium
Yeah.
this year. And every year it's stolen bases, and every year it's saves. It seems like, and I'm here to say that I don't normally draft just for stolen bases only. Like if I'm drafting for stolen bases, the guy has to come with a set of skill set and some power, some pop to his bat. Like I don't just get one-dimensional players. I tried that before. I don't like it. I drafted Billy Hamilton because if you draft Billy Hamilton, you win the stolen base category. Yeah, and I ended up losing my league because he did not give me a batting average. He did not give me a non-base percentage.
Right. It wasn't well rounded. Right.
Doesn't Not a well-rounded player, but yeah, guys like Kyle Tucker, I'll take him because he can hit 31 home runs too. And so that I'm more selective than anything in that regard. Same thing with saves. Like, oh, you got to get who's a good example? Oh Lord, this is just the names of awful closers throughout the years. You got anyone for me there, Harry? Otherwise, I'll look one up.
Of awful closers.
Just awful closer, but they get like 36. Like Bob Wickman, I guess, was one example. Or oh, the Cubs had one too. Let me see
The
if I
Mets
can
are
look.
gonna kill me. I want to say Billy Wagner, but I don't know if that's fair.
Yeah, borderline Hall of Famer. Maybe that's not fair. Craig Kimbrell, I guess. Is like, oh, you got to get Craig Kimbrell. He's going to be on a good team. He's going to get these saves. Yeah, but come on, he's disastrous. I think his best years are behind him. I know people are going to get at me for that, but Alex Lang is another guy I don't like. Yeah, he's going to be he should be the primary Detroit Tigers closer. But every time I look at his numbers, I'm not impressed by him. Like he's just so inferior to everybody else. Kyle Finnegan of the Washington Nationals. Oh my God, he's gonna be the only guy making doing saves for the Nationals. Now I'm more interested in his backup, which I believe it should still be Hunter Harvey. Like I'm looking at Hunter Harvey. He's like, hey, good looking. You come here often. Are you still gonna be the eighth inning setup guy and the primary closer once Kyle Finnegan craps the bed again this year? Holler at me if you can, huh? So that's what I'm looking at usually. Looking for guys for the guys who can get high amounts of saves. He has to be in the right situation, obviously with the right team, and not even like on a winning team, but just in terms of saves, carry. I would prefer if they're on a team that is projected to win a lot of close games. Obviously, that's the name of the
Right.
game. Because there's a lot of good closers on really good teams, but I mean, like I got Raisel Iglesias. I'm pretty sure he's not going to see a lot of time because the Braves are just going to win a lot of where they're going to be up 5 runs and Iglesias is not going to be qualifying for the save. But I could see a guy like David Bednar getting a lot of saves this upcoming year. I love David Bednar this year. Even if he gets traded, I mentioned this early in the year. If David Bednar gets traded to the New York Yankees, I'm here to tell you that he should be the ninth inning guy on that team automatically if he gets traded. It's a big if, but we'll see. But usually things like that deter people from getting a closer like David Bednar of the Pittsburgh Pirates. But I'm here to tell you, no, he's the goods. I've liked them. I've always liked them. Pirates should, if they win, they're going to win a lot of close, tight games. And if he gets traded, I mean, I think a lot of these teams are going to be wanting him as a closer and not as a late inning, just another late inning arm. I would think, unless you're the Mets, because you already have Edwin Diaz. But if you're the Yankees, hell, if you're the Orioles, I would take David Bednar over Kick Kimbrell like 10 out of 10 times and twice on Sundays. More comments to read here. James, my big rival in multiple fantasy leagues, basketball and baseball. James says, "You are the devil on our shoulders, Senor Spreadsheet." I am. That's one of my nicknames, Senor Spreadsheet. I always said that if I did have an OnlyFans, I would be my tag name would be Spread Them Sheets. Manny, the A's fan. I gave up some good players to trade for Wander Franco. Thanks, Felipe. Like, oh well, that's I know he's being sarcastic, but what if he did do that? I don't remember ever being like super duper high on Wander Franco like that. Like, go trade away your entire roster for Wander Franco. Um, Manuel also says, I don't even play fantasy baseball. I'm just joking around. I was hoping you all would be baseball talking about baseball cards. So, no, I used to collect baseball cards when I was a young little Felipe version, like 10 years old. I think I stopped at 11 years old. I don't know why. Um, yeah, but that was a long, long time ago. I try to get back into it, but I don't know. It just seems like if you don't have a rookie card, your baseball card collection is useless. So I don't know. Unless, Manny, you tell me if I'm wrong. Like I said, I was trying to get back into it, and it just seems like it's rookie card or bust. Like if you have Wander Franco rookie cards, you're busted. But before he got in trouble, you were thinking that you were swimming just fine. Anyway, so that's my little spiel on projections. And this is the spreadsheet I sent you, Harry. These are just the hitters here. Uh, and I do have a color coordinator as well, but this is the Ariel Cohen. Well, these are my figures, the color coded stuff. So red, anything that's red is super duper good. Anything that's yellow is about league average, and anything that's blue is just awful. But one thing I did realize that before I would pare down this list, so I would take away a lot of bench players, a lot of players who are not expected to play a lot. But I didn't do it this year because I noticed that there's a lot of minor league players that I want to take a look at as well. But this kind of skews the number a lot, where there's a lot of players now in red. So, before these guys would be in yellow or so, or maybe greenish color, but now a lot of these folks are in an orange hue. The league average yellow is like nowhere to be found anymore. It's hard to tell because there's more players But yeah, see, as I dig down deeper, you see that there's now a sea of blue, right?
Yep.
So these are players that are either not going to get a lot of playing time or just players that are not very good. And who's Mr. Irrelevant in this one? Oh, I forgot. Well, Wander Franco. Yeah, we should not. We should try to avoid Wander Franco. That's why he's color coded in red. Um, who is? See, and it keeps going. It's about 700 players, 702 players. Mason McCoy is Mr. Irrelevant with 7.7 projected fantasy points. And those are the fantasy points projections I'm using for my Mardi Gras Madness League. That's also a fantasy points head-to-head league, just like yours, Harry. Um, what is there anything positive? $1.99 average, 258 on base percentage. So I guess with much confidence, I could probably delete him, but I won't. I'll keep him around for a little bit and see what happens. Look at this craziness. Projected to strike out 46% of the time that he's out there. Like, what exactly do you do for us, Mason McCoy?
My God, that's high.
Yeah, that's higher than usual, even for projections, even for conservative projections. But there it is, Acuna and Juan Soto, number one and number two. That's different than the list that I just shared from Fantasy Pros. That was the average draft position. Now, why is a Soto as like higher than some of those players that we mentioned? In a points league, the 37 home runs, 100 RBI, so 105 RBI, 105 runs scored, and he'll chip in some stolen bases. 420 on base percentage. I think that helps a lot, which obviously we don't account for stolen on base percentage in points leagues, but you can indirectly in your mind realize that on base percentage means that he's going to get on base. Every time he gets on base, that's a point for you at the very least. How often is he going to get on base just via walk? According to Ariel Cohen, about 19.18% of the time. So about 20% of the time that he's out there on a plate appearance, Juan Soto will be on base just via walk. And that is the league high coming into the season. Juan Soto is projected to, once again, if he didn't do so last year, which I think he did, I'm 85% sure he did last year. But once again, Juan Soto is supposed to lead the league in walk percentage. So I think that's why the point system, even though we're always looking for um who can steal bases, I mean, Juan Soto is projected to only steal 10 bases. And I mean, if you look at him, right, Harry, he doesn't look like a big base stealer, right?
No.
No, right? He's a heavy set guy, but his skill set is that he has an incredible batting eye and he can he's just a really natural pure hitter and he can hit with power as well. That power should translate to the second best player in fantasy point. Buy or sell Juan Soto being the second best player in fantasy points there, Harry.
I mean, I think I'm buying. I think I'm buying it.
Yeah, right. Because like you said, it doesn't in points league, it doesn't matter as much, right? Um,
Right, the stolen base isn't right. They don't matter as much if
yeah,
I learned
because
anything properly.
yeah, 37 home runs. He's driving on 100 RBI, and then he'll chip in 27 doubles as well. Uh, I think that's part of it is that he's contributing in other ways, not necessarily for stolen bases. That his big bat will contribute more than some other guys who can actually steal bases, and that's the mentality I carry across all my leagues, categories, roto, whatever. That's the mentality I have in mind every single time. Would I draft Juan Soto number 2 overall in a roto league? I am a big fan. I love me some Juan Soto. And I would say that 65% of the time, depending on the mood, I think I would. People will call me crazy, but I feel I'm confident enough that I can get stolen bases elsewhere. So with that being said, before we move on to the next topic, any last words about the projections or just anything that we talked about so far in the first few minutes of show of this program?
I just noticed a couple names that I'm keeping, so I kind of like that. Believe I'm keeping in my league. It's not official yet, but if Joe and I decide we're keeping Kyle Tucker and Corbin Carroll, so I kind of like those names being so high up. So hopefully
Yeah.
that helps me.
Yeah, I know that the CBS guys mentioned Corbin Carroll having a history of shoulder injuries or whatnot, but I mean, I asked our Diamondbacks fan Corey Decker the last time I was on there if he's heard any injury concerns for Corbin Carroll, and he says I have not. He looks fine to me. He says, and he's right in my backyard. I have not heard anything negative about Corbin Carroll, so I'm gonna take his word. I've loved Corbin Carroll for a long time now, so the green light's on for Corbin Carroll and Kyle Tucker as well. Sure. Uh, Other things here, these are the aggregate categories that I for my head-to-head league that I'm accounting for. So if you're in my head-to-head league, uh, turn away. I don't want you seeing my top secrets here. No, I'm joking. But basically, this is an accumulation of everything that this player is going to do, right? So Ronald Acuna's 418 aggregate amount for my categories league. That includes everything is equal to as one. So that means singles, doubles, triples, home runs, RBI, runs scored, hit by pitch. I think we keep track of hit by pitch. Stolen bases minus caught stealing. Therefore, that's why I have the net stolen base there, Harry.
Gotcha.
And the number of walks taken minus number of strikeouts allowed. In this league, in my 12 by 12 category league, Ronald Acuna is going to contribute 418 total amounts of all those categories I just mentioned. Number two, despite the fact that he doesn't steal a lot of bases, Juan Soto. What was that word you mentioned? Well-rounded is what you mentioned, right?
Yeah, well rounded.
So it's not there's that's why I love these 12 by 12 leagues that I do with guys like Corey, Austin, Sean, Aaron, is that there's more than one way to skin a cat here. Or I just said that out loud and I don't like it. But there's more than one way to win in leagues like this, right? You don't, oh well, I gotta get stolen bases. I gotta get stolen bases. Oh my god, now I gotta get for home run. No, there's a lot of ways to win. You know, you want to get a punch and Judy hitter, go on, do it. You could probably win with that in my league. Luis Arias, 322, despite the fact that he's only projected to get a total of 9.7 on home runs plus net stolen bases, right? Let's take a look. 8 home runs and 2 net stolen bases. That's what Luis Arias is going to get you this year in terms of counting stats. People will say, "Oh, well, that's just awful." So he's nothing. He's just a one-dimensional player that can get you uh his primary thing is batting average, right? But in a league like mine, Harry, 322. Now, people might not want to pick him as a top 10 player, but if you do get him, you're going to get 137 singles, which we keep track of, 30 big doubles, which we keep track of, and 75 runs. That's pretty darn good in roto leagues and definitely in the category leagues. You're going to get the big batting average and the big on base percentage, and he's going to limit his strikeouts. Oh my God, 40 strikeouts all year long. That's crucial for a league like ours. Categories,
Wow. Yeah, it's
yeah,
low. Wow.
very extreme, minuscule, just just crazy. So that's why Luis Arias is now. Would I draft him in the top 10 in a league like this? No, I wouldn't. But where's he going right now? Luis Arias, right? Looking at the other screen here at the Fantasy Pros, Luis Arias is going as the 122nd best player in fantasy, and I'm assuming that's Roto League because of the lack of home runs and the lack of stolen bases. But that's what I mean. Every league is unique nowadays. I have yet to meet anyone that plays in just traditional 5 by 5 leagues. So, but again, if it's all average, I mean, what's 122? What is that? 12 times? That's like double digit rounds, right?
Yeah, it is double digit rounds.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm busting out the calculator. So just rough math divided by 12 in a 12 team league. Yeah, that's that between the 10th and the 11th round. I mean, that's a steal at second base, I would think. So that's what all these things mean. So I think you will be focusing more on fantasy points, and Carrie, what you and your partner should just be doing is, okay, do we believe, you still got to make your own rankings. I'm doing that as well. Do we believe in all these players being attaining all of these metrics? Can Austin Riley get to 509 fantasy points? Rafael Devers, Pete Alonso, and of course, you guys got to customize it to your own liking with this formula up here. But I'll leave it up to you. I'll assume you guys know how to use a spreadsheet because yeah, if I go any further, people are gonna be like, "Oh, what is this? A TED talk or is this is this a baseball podcast?" I don't know. So we go over the pitchers now. Oh, it's really tiny. So this is what I use. This is what I use every year to figure out my where I want to, in which direction I want to go to in fantasy circles, fantasy baseball circles, and to get me ready for the upcoming season as well. This one should be. I don't know what this is sorted by, but let's do the points league since we're both in points leagues. We'll sort it by points league. There's a lot of players to discuss here, so that's why it's taking a while. All right, so Spencer Strider is the number one pitcher in points league coming into the 2024 season, according to the projections I have here for my Mardi Gras league, my points league. Is Spencer Strider better than Garrett Cole coming into the 2024 season, Harry?
I'm not sure. And it's
Okay.
not fair. I'm a Yankee fan, so I'm not gonna be biased. So it's
I
tough.
mean, well, I mean, the people would say, well, Garrett Cole has done it longer. Spencer Strider he's still a converted relief pitcher. Dominated last year, really dominated last year. He really did. The numbers will show that, despite the fact that his ERA was really high. The peripherals show a very dominant picture. But he's still learning on the job. I mean, I think we talked about it already. He that in the first or second episode that he's still trying to uh perfect his third and fourth pitches, if he even has a fourth pitch.
Wow.
Garrett Cole, on the other hand, has been pretty much the gold standard at starting pitching for the last 3, 4 seasons at this point. But there's always is this the year that it falls apart for him, right? Because we as humans, we just naturally decline. It's just some Major League Baseball players like Justin Verlander are better at deferring that time, that decline from ever happening. That they do a better job of letting it happen later rather than sooner. Does Gary Cole fall in that category, or is this the fact that he plays for the Yankees? It's more a pressurized situation. There's a short. It's traditionally a hitter friendly ballpark. He doesn't have a beard anymore. I don't know. Maybe those things fall into it. I think Garrett Cole would be the more surefire player here.
Hmm.
But I tell you, man, Spencer Strider he's just fun to watch. But he also comes with baggage. I loved him last year when I was able to get him in the third or fourth round in one of my categories leagues, and he was going as he wasn't going as number 1 pitcher. I could tell you that much. But now that he's going as the number 1 pitcher, it's like, well, is he going to be Jonathan Taylor? To use a fantasy football analogy, is he going to be like Jonathan Taylor, where he was the consensus number 1 player in fantasy football one time, and then just fall off a cliff, or is he going to be? Oh, I don't know, man. It seems like do you ever notice that in fantasy football, anybody who gets drafted number 1 is just a bust in fantasy football circles?
It happens all the time.
Okay,
I drafted Justin Jefferson in 2 leagues,
unbelievable.
and then it ended up killing me. Yeah, well, actually, no, that's not true. I still won in one of them, but yeah, I drafted him. He landed to me with the second pick in my fantasy football league. And then I was in my buddy Joe's league, my partner, and I had the first pick. So I did take Jefferson. I ended up still winning Joe's league. I got lucky.
Hmm.
There was things out there like CJ Stroud and that changed my whole QB play for the year and then different stuff. And then I actually won out with Baker Mayfield, but that's another
There
story
you
for
go.
another day. But the point though is that yeah, Jefferson in 2 different leagues killed me. So yeah,
Eh,
the first pick, I don't like picking first. I think it always I mean, because I'm a traditional for fantasy football, snake draft guy. I hate waiting that long between picks. I think
Yeah,
it's atrocious. So I rather pick 4 or 5 or 6.
middle of the pack. Yeah,
Yeah, middle of the pack type thing. Um, but if I had to pick either 1 or 12, say you're a 12 or 14 league, I rather pick back to back on the back end than in the front. I don't
yeah.
know if that
I'll
makes sense now.
I'll be doing that in our since I won the championship last year. I'll be doing that in our baseball life league. I don't think I've ever picked in a single digits in that league. I'm always winning. When I'm
Wow.
winning championships, but I make it. At least I get enough spins at that wheel to, have a 10th or 11th pick overall. Which some people would just yell at me and say, just tank next year so you can get a better pick. Like, no, man, I am here to win. You play to win the game. That is my credo. I use that Herm Edwards quote all the time. I got a quote here from Manny Hernandez, the A's fan that's been listening in. So I thank you for waking up with us this morning. He's out on the West Coast, I believe. So he's super duper up, and I don't know what he's doing on a Saturday morning. But by the way, he says the A's are moving to Las Vegas with a proposed stadium plan to open in 2028. Wow, that's a long time. They have to find a place to play in 2025, 2026, and 2027. They own half of the Oakland Coliseum, but are looking at Sacramento, Salt Lake City, and Oakland. And all of that, Harry, you'll appreciate this. All of that just spells disaster, right? That's a terrible way to run a franchise. That's just my opinion. But there's a reason why the Athletics have moved not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 effing times in their illustrious history. They started out in Philadelphia, and now they're in Las Vegas. That's their 4th stop. And hell, they might even have a 5th or 6th stop, depending on where they want to play next year. So You have any thoughts on that now that you have a little bit more insight on the Oakland Athletics situation?
It's just sad. I'm just
Yeah,
I'm stuck in a time warp. I just remember the athletics that had, like Zito and Hudson and
yep,
Mark Moeller, and then they had, Giambi before we had Giambi.
yep.
And I don't know, like a lot of great players came out of Oakland back in the day,
Reggie
like
Jackson, if you want to go to the 70s, Reggie
yeah. I
Jackson,
mean, Ricky
R-
Henderson, I
Roger
mean, played there.
Maris.
I mean, it's
I
just
think it was
crazy
Roger
that
Maris.
I guess I mean, are they like the baseball version of New York Jets? I mean,
No, they are the baseball version of the Oakland Raiders. The
yeah, I
constant
guess
moving
so.
around.
I
Yeah,
guess you can go that
they're
route.
meant for each other, right? Other things for Manny about baseball cards. It's all about the prospect, and most of the time you have to sell fast to make money. Well, I
He's
guess
not
it.
wrong.
I mean,
He's
I
not
guess
wrong.
it's
He's
the
not
same
wrong.
as fantasy baseball too. If you don't believe in a prospect, you trade him away and see if you can get top dollar for him. I guess. What do you guys feel about Junior Caminero? I'm curious to what he is projected to be like from stat and start potential. If you've done analysis for him, boy, I tell you, I have done it, done a little bit. Uh, as of right now, he is my number 2 prospect coming into the season. And I rank my prospects a little different because I am selfishly looking for them in fantasy baseball circles. But let's take a quick look at Junior Caminero over at the Fangraphs page, and I'll share my screen as soon as I got the Caminero page up and running. But I like him. What I don't like is the situation in Tampa Bay. I don't like the way they bring up their prospects very slowly. Caminero might be an exception, but I'm a little wary. And as you can see right there, latest news as of 2 weeks ago, or maybe more than that, 2.5, 3 weeks ago. Junior Caminero is unlikely to crack the Rays opening day roster, according to Mark Topkin of the Tampa Bay Times reports. But this is what Fangraphs thinks about him. 5'11", 157-pounder, little guy, so he needs to eat more. But we've also seen that, sometimes the height and weights are not correct. He'll play on the left side. That is the left side of the infield, correct? Little young guy, age 20. He'll be 21 after July 4th. But he's still working on that hit tool. The power is where it's at. 80 great power potential. Kind of slow. Can't feel much. But still, the bat alone puts him at a 60 feature value out of an 80 grade scale.
So you're saying
And
he's Mike Stanton or Giancarlo?
yeah,
Giancarlo Stanton. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that was his name before. He could be. Well, no, he's a little guy. He's a little guy. So
Well, yeah, I meant like I didn't mean the size part. I meant like just the playing style. It sounds like.
yeah. I'm trying to think who would be a good example. Anyway, let's move on. Camaneros, this is the prospects too long to read. Too long did not read. Uh, Sentence here. Camanero's power is nearly elite, and he's only 20 years old. He may outgrow the infield, so you might be right. Maybe he will on the Stanton, but still, he's only 5'11". But 35 plus homers are probably on the way. So if you believe that he can get you 35 home runs, then let's see what he's done in the minor leagues. Like last year in the Double A. Well, go ahead. What are you looking
I
at?
think we need to revisit that because now I'm intrigued. If we have time, like who do we think he's like then? Like, because if you're gonna use size and all that, because now I got my the cranks are the gears are shifting now in the head, and now I'm trying to figure it out. I keep thinking about the kid in well, he's not a kid no more, obviously, but the guy that was in Seattle back in the '90s that played DH. But
Edgar
I don't know.
Martinez?
Yeah, but he didn't have a lot of power though.
Edgar Martinez?
Yeah,
He had some power. He had
he
some
had some
power.
power. He had some
Yeah.
power, but not nothing.
I know.
Wasn't outrageously. It had some power.
Yeah. But
That's the first guy that came to mind. I don't know why.
Edgar Martinez might be a good comp, like at the very absolute best, that this is a reincarnation of Edgar Martinez. I forgot what his height and weight were. I know that he got really big, for reasons.
Yeah, he did get heavy, right? But I don't know.
Reasons.
I'm one of those guys, and once you mention something like that,
Yeah.
it's gonna start driving me crazy until probably after the recording's over, and then I'll have an answer for you. So
Well, put it out there. 5'11", barely 160 pounds, but lots of power. Where's that power coming from? I don't know. But you people listening, you tell me what player in baseball history has done that has projected to hit about 35 home runs at his absolute peak. But this is what he did in Double A Double A, yeah, because he played in both. Let's combine both, High A and Double A. He had 31 home runs last year, 5 stolen bases only. So he's not a stolen base guy. So just pure power. He drove in about 84 runs last year. Was able to control his strike zone, the strikeouts, I should say. I mean, 25% nowadays, you'll take that. And he was able to improve his walk rate in Double A. So as the competition got tougher, his batting I got a little bit better because he was able to increase his walks and limit his strikeouts. And he did good for himself as a 20-year-old or 19-year-old actually in Double A. I mean, he held his own. Look at those numbers, the triple slash line right here. What is he projected to do this year? Well, I think Ariel is kind of wary, just like I am. He's only going to play 75 games. Well, that's half the season. So yeah, the Rays might bring him up later this year, like after June or something, right? Because that's what the Rays do with their uber blue chip prospects. You need to go back and I don't know, work on your throwing. Yeah, we don't like the way you throw. We're a cheap ass team, so we don't want you up here too soon. It's a learning curve, so they think Ariel thinks that strikeouts are going to go back up, comparatively speaking, to his Double A performance. And even though there's a low on base percentage, that the power is legitimate and that he will produce in other ways. And if you guys want the counting stats, Ariel thinks that he will hit 12 home runs, drive in 43 RBI in 75 games, and chip in 12 doubles and 12 doubles. It's a 265 batting average. So that, and I guess I could have done it, my spreadsheet here because I do have Junior Caminero up somewhere. Let me just take a quick look at him.
Do you want to hear Google's answers for this?
Sure, go ahead.
All I typed in was 5'11", hits for power. Outfielder Willie Horton was only 5'11" tall, but for the Detroit Tigers in 1968, he was the biggest bat in the lineup. Horton
Yeah.
felt at 38 long balls that year.
Hey, sometimes sometimes people only gravitate towards the big Hall of Fame type of names, but sometimes a guy like Willie Horton will be sufficient. And as you can see, the counting stats are pretty low for Junior Caminero this year, because we don't know when he's playing this year. Can he actually hit 35 home runs on a consistent basis? I mean, everything shows that he can. I'm a little. He has the height. I just the rest of it, he just sounds like a lanky player. I have not, as you guys can tell, I have not seen him in like on television or in person, but he just seems like he's a lanky player. So he needs to build out his body, and maybe I could start believing him. But that is the upside: 35 home runs, which probably leads to 100 RBI, decent batting eye. Yeah, even as a rookie, he's gonna be producing when one way or another, like 761 ops for a rookie. You'll take that. So maybe not this year, but yeah, I mean, but he's not an electric player in terms of like the fielding. He's not gonna make the highlights from what those projections stated. He's not gonna see a lot of bases. If he's Austin Riley, is that worth anything? Right? So that's something Manny Hernandez from a baseball card collector. If Austin Riley makes you money, then Junior Caminero will make you money. If Austin Riley's just another player, then Junior Caminero, in terms of baseball card collection, then Junior Caminero might be the same thing. I don't know. I don't do baseball cards, but if he can be like Austin Riley, I think that's a win for a lot of people,
I got
especially in
one
fantasy
more.
baseball. Go ahead.
So someone on Reddit put Mel Ott, who was 5'9". He's one of the best hitters ever, hit
Yeah,
511 career home runs.
yeah, but he's left-handed. But yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, Mel, I also came up as a teenager, I believe. John McGraw just loved the kid. Um, so yeah, the only qualm is that he's left-handed.
Right, no,
And
I get it. I just
yeah, I'm anal like that. It has to be the same height, and although even the height, you gotta account for eras, right? Because we as a society are getting taller and taller every year, right? So I guess I'll forgive the height differential there, but that's a good one just from pound for pound situation. Now, did Mel Ott see a lot of bases? I think he did.
yeah, I didn't look it up, but I think he did. I'm pretty confident that he did see a good amount.
So in that regard, it's not a good comp. It's not a good comp. Because I'm like I said, I'm anal like that. Like it has to
That's
be
okay.
the exact same stolen base stature, same height, same weight. It has to be the same handedness. So, but that's just me. A lot of people are more forgiving than I am. But like I said, I'm the most anal guy I know. So I hope that answers your question, Manny. Boy, he's asking me a lot of questions. Let's see here. 55 years old in Oakland, though, more than half the time span. Edgar was 6 foot, 175 pounds. So yeah, there you go. That might be a really good comp. Junior Caminero Hall of Fame potential there, if at the very best.
No, so I was right, or pretty close. That's
And
good.
Yeah, and he explains that he started chasing his baseball cards in 2024 series, just hoping to hit on an autograph or a specific parallel, as he doesn't have a regular base card. I hit his 1 of 1, and Jesus Christ, I don't know what 1 of 1 means. I mean, I know what 1 of 1 means. I just don't know in context. But one
The
of one is
card's
like,
worth the card's worth a lot more being one of one.
yeah, I know that that's like a unique card that he got. I just don't know in what context that he got. But uh, and it's at $3,000 as a collector. I have to figure when to sell it or keep for my collection. Austin Riley's card value isn't as high as it should be, in my opinion. Stats and card value don't go hand in hand. Yeah, because it's a lot of marketability, right? Austin Riley doesn't have a lot of marketability. Junior Caminero is Latino. I think he's Latino, right? He might have some because you know Latinos are more loyal, I think, and that's just me pulling generalities out of my head here. So it's more about hype and of earnings they are than as a prospect. So yeah, sell if you want to sell now, sell now. But if you think he's gonna be Edgar Martinez, I don't know. Maybe you hold on a
Maybe you
little
hold on
longer.
to it. Right, maybe
Yeah.
you hold on to it.
But
Maybe
let me ask you, is
it's
Edgar Martinez worth anything? Like a rookie Edgar Martinez Hall of Fame autograph card, is that worth anything? So those are questions that Manny has to answer. I don't know. So
But see, but that's depends on like, the amount that's out there. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
cards are weird because it depends on how much the market's flooded.
yeah.
I only know this because my best friend's a huge card collector. He's been collecting since he was born. Like his father started it for him, and then he's still collecting to this very day. So like it's all about, like last year, this past year, I bought a box of I think it was Don Russ, complete set of football because of CJ Stroud. I didn't, what do they call those blaster boxes? Those were already gone. People already have the ins on that. You can't get your hands on that stuff unless you have an in, for some reason, at like Targets and stuff. But so I bought one just in case, and maybe I'll get my money back, if I keep it sealed. But I can try opening it and seeing if something crazy comes out of it. But there's a risk to that. If I open it and there's nothing good in there, then I'm screwed. So I don't get my money back on the box at all.
Good stuff. I was not expecting to talk about baseball cards this morning, but there is some
Well,
similarities to both the activities, both hobbies. I mean, they're both hobbies. They both keep you in tune to the actual Major League Baseball game. There's money involved, a little bit of money involved, more
I,
money
I
in the card collecting, I guess.
I got
But
another quick scenario for you. So McFarlane used to make, figures, and they still do to some degree,
Seth
but it's a
MacFarlane,
little different
no,
now. No, 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 McFarlane,
the Spawn
uh,
guy,
McFarlane Figurines, the company that would make figures. So like
Todd
behind me,
McFarlane.
you see all the Yankee figures up there that my buddy, got me over the years. So back in the day, you used to have chase figures,
Oh,
and but no one knew about them. It wasn't on the box or the package or anything. So there was a hunt for it. So like Toys R Us or different place that sold it, you'd have to go out there the day they put it on the shelf, and but once in a while you'll catch a chase figure and you could resell it. So I remember once I bought a who's that, the hockey player he's playing on Washington, Alexander Ovechkin.
he still plays,
I,
I think. Yeah,
yeah, and I got the alternate jersey. It was like a chase figure. I only paid 15, 17 bucks for it. I sold the thing on eBay for $300, like
nice.
literally a day later. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah,
but there was a hunt of that, and that's kind of like how cards has turned into as well. The cards aren't chase, but there's parallels and different types of inserts that if you get, you can make yourself a lot of money. I mean,
but
but it's the thrill of the chase of it. I think that's why
yeah.
most collectors do it.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, that's why I don't. That's why I don't collect. I mean, I collect. I'm starting to collect some books, but my intention is to read them eventually. But obviously, I'm nowhere near finishing my books.
right, right. No,
But
I got you.
I mean, I collect books just because I don't know. I always wanted to have a little library somewhere in my
Right,
household. So this is a good start, but they're not valued at anything. Although if there's book burning stuff keeps happening, maybe they will be valued something. Like, man, that Scottie Pippen book, man, he said a lot of bad things about Michael Jordan. Now if Michael Jordan wants to cancel him out, well, I have the last remaining copy of Unguarded, the story of Scottie Pippen. And I hope I also have the Michael Jordan rules by Sam Smith, so I'm gonna read both of them eventually. McFarlane Toys, yes, I was thinking about Todd McFarlane. I think that's the guy who did Spawn, right? The creator of Spawn and all those other
right.
comic books, and the guy who bought the Mark McGuire baseball, right? If I remember
Yeah, I think
correctly.
so. Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah. Anyway, you have players. By the way, all these statistics, whether you use the ATC projections, or like I think I mentioned this before, Harry. There's a Zips, there's a Steamer, there's the Fangraphs depth chart, there's the BAT, there's the BAT X, which accounts for expected batted ball data and everything that's from what I understand, everything that you saw in Baseball Savant. That's there for you if you want it. There's a lot of things that they play around with. 3-year projections. So if you want to look into the future, spoiler alert coming up. Who's going to be the best player in 2026 according to the Zips projections? Ronald Acuna. So nothing has changed. Everything's the same. Fernando Tatis is going to make a bounce back. Adley Rutschman's still the best catcher in the land, and Gunnar Henderson is the second best player on that team for the Orioles. Bobby Witt Jr. is going to take a dip at number 9. Wander Franco will still be playing somehow. That's why they're projections, right? Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just laughing. Just
Okay.
found that funny.
You had players you had questions for, so let's see if we can get to as many as we can. Oneil Cruz, what my thoughts about Oneil Cruz is, I like the upside. I really, really do. But this guy lacks so much baseball acumen, right? He for just points leagues, he is supposed to, oh, that's Tyler O'Neill, my bad. So where the hell is Oneil Cruz? Oh, you know what? I might have spelled his name wrong. So about Cruz. There. Oh, that's Ellie De La Cruz. Sorry. O'Neill. Oh, well, of course they're right next to each other. They're basically doppelgangers of each other. The player number 71 and 72. I know that Ellie De La Cruz is going really high, where a lot of the so-called experts are even saying that, well, that's a little too high. 34th overall as of right now. It seems like he keeps climbing as people are having a little bit of a fear of missing out on the guy. And I'm sorry, man. That's between second, third, even fourth round selection right there. And I'm not doing it. I am not wasting a second or third round pick on a project. I can't do it. That's Ellie De La Cruz, by the way. But Oneil Cruz is a similar player, I believe. You know, raw, talented. They're basically, think about basketball players, right? We see raw basketball players get drafted every single year, and they just don't have the basketball IQ to play heavy minutes, even if they're highly picked. We see it all the time, right, Harry? For every Victor Wembanyama, you get like a Justice Winslow or a Stanley Johnson.
Yeah, true.
Who are those guys exactly? Or my guys, Jackson Hayes. I still believe in you, goddamn it, Jackson Hayes. I still believe in you. Just gotta be like Tyson Chandler, man. Just run up and down the court from paint to paint. Just grab rebounds and block shots and get the alley oops. That's all you gotta do, and you'll be the perfect fantasy basketball center. But Ellie De La Cruz, and I understand the hype. I mean, 20 home runs, 36 big stolen bases. But let me look at 249 batting average, a 311 on base percentage. And what did I say before? I can't trust guys who cannot post respectable on base percentages. I can't do it.
Remind me, sorry for forgetting. Or
330,
330.
And I mixed, and of course
Okay.
there's exceptions to the rules, Harry. There really is. I mean, 320 you see 320 up here from Willie Adames. You see 322 from Bryson Stott. I think those are guys I would consider drafting, depending on situation. Usually to fill out my middle infield position, you know, things of that nature. But Ellie De La Cruz at 311, I mean, you have to sacrifice that skill set, that area of skill for the big stolen bases and the big home run potential, the big power speed combination. But even at a 751 ops for a guy that big and that promising, I mean, we just saw Junior Caminero. He's projected to hit 767 this year. And again, the reason I bring up things like ops and WOBA and all that is because there is some correlation with these rate stats to that should be able to transpose into fantasy baseball production. It should. Doesn't mean that it's the end all be all, but it should. At the very least, for me, it gives me a better idea if these guys can really hit their mark on a consistent basis, or are they just going to be there to frustrate you? Guys like Ellie De La Cruz and Oneil Cruz, they are going to be there to frustrate you with their big strikeouts. Last I checked, you keep track of strikeouts for hitters, right? You get penalized for that?
I believe so, yes.
Well, so do I, and I don't want that in my life. So, oops, wrong thing. So that's my concern with the Cruzes. I love the potential. I love the athleticism. I love the upside on all those guys. And maybe this is the year they get it all together. I mean, you see the highlights. You see that the Statcast numbers. You see that they're throwing 100 miles an hour across the diamond. They're very exciting players. But this is a game that, yes, you got to be athletic, but you also got to have some skill set to you. That's why guys like Ben Zobrist can survive forever. Whit Merrifield is still in the league, despite the fact that he's getting slower. but he still has a skill set there that Major League Baseball teams are looking for. These guys are still learning on the job. So if you're willing to put up with those growing pains, have at it. But I wouldn't. I'm not targeting any of those guys, and I love those guys, but I can't do it. Can't win with them. Can't do it. Just quote Mike Singletary. Can't win with them. Can't do it. Won't do it. Oneil Cruz going between 7th, 8th, maybe 9th round. That's a little bit of a pill, easier pill to swallow. But I mean, is he better? Am I taking him over David Bednar? I just share my love for David Bednar. I don't think I could. Is he better than Gleyber Torres? Maybe, but Gleyber Torres has a more mature plate approach compared to Oneil Cruz. Josh Lowe, similar situation, but Josh Lowe, where is Josh Lowe anyway? Maybe before I talk out of my butt, maybe I should look up what Josh Lowe brings to the table. Josh Lowe is a outfielder for the Tampa Bay Rays. Kind of similar situation with the other guys, the Cruzes I've been mentioning. Um, so Josh Lowe, same thing, power speed combination, 26 stolen bases for you, but low on base percentage, slightly higher than the guys I just mentioned. Similar ops, similar WOBA. So yeah, so at that point, similar strikeout rate. So at that point, I guess Oneil Cruz is better than Josh Lowe. Is he better than Yuri Perez, the 6'8" starting pitcher for your Miami Marlins, who's only 20 years old? Well, it depends how you see a 20-year-old for the Miami Marlins. I mean, you tell me, Harry, Oneil Cruz with all his shortcomings that he has coming to himself, would you still want that over a raw pitcher with lightning stuff, but 20 years old, unproven for a very bad team in the Miami? I mean, they're both play for bad teams, but it just depends what you're looking for. Yuri Perez or Oneil Cruz?
I guess it's a gamble either way. I mean,
Exactly. For me, though, the surefire thing is Yuri Perez, despite the fact that Yuri Perez can blow out his arm tomorrow, because that's how volatile pitchers are. But you mentioned, what are some statistical categories that are going to be lacking this upcoming season? Just pitching. We saw that pitching is down because of these new rules. It was a pain in the butt looking for pitchers off waiver wires last year in all my leagues, except for the ESPN league, because they learned a lesson. Like, we need to have a good hitting lineup to stop Felipe from winning championships. What does Felipe do? When everybody zigs, I zag. All right, you're going to take all my hitters, all my favorite hitters. I'll just take all my favorite pitchers. And I won with nothing but dominant pitching because I was able to see that, you know what? There should be more hitters available because the rules are now more friendly towards hitters. So pitchers are more valuable in this league. And I ended up compiling a super roster, a super rotation of pitchers last year. And that's what carried me throughout the season. And that's what carried me through a championship. Despite the fact that Julio Rodriguez, my center fielder, was just inconsistent. Giancarlo Stanton was injured the entirety of the year. Tommy Edman did not play up to the one time I actually get a guy like him who sole purpose is to steal bases. Of course, that's the year that he decides that he's not going to be consistent and that he's injured all the time. Ain't that something?
it's the way it works sometimes. It's terrible.
Yeah, that's the luck factor that you can prepare all you want, but that luck factor, if you don't have it, in those intangibles, those random variables, if you don't have it, then good process, poor results, right? Yeah, that's what I tell myself. What was the other player? Randy Arozarena, again, inconsistent player, but you know what I had on my pitching side? Spencer Strider, Tyler Glasnow, Luis Castillo, Nate Ovaldi when he was healthy, Jonathan Gray when he was healthy, Justin Steele, drafted super duper late, ends up being a Cy Young candidate. That's
Wow.
how and when everybody zags, you kind of have to zag and just roll with the punches. And that's the way I play. But some people think that's a little too risky. I can't manage that way, and that's fine too. You want to play it safe, that's fine too. But as my friend Mario Margola, who writes for Fantasy Pros, used to say, you can play it safe all you want, but if you're happy finishing in 5th and 6th place every year, then that's fine too. Sometimes you gotta think outside the box a little bit. So in that, getting back to our conversation about Oneil Cruz, if you think that he can, it just depends. Let me show you the list, man. It just depends. And out there, you tell me. Like Oneil Cruz, is he better than Bobby Miller? Is also on your list. Do you think he's going to be better than a pitcher like Bobby Miller? Do you think he's going to be better than a guy like Ha-Seong Kim, who plays multiple positions, who also steals a bunch of bases, but probably doesn't have the same upside as Oneil Cruz? Ryan Reynolds is like the safest player you can get. But do you believe Oneil Cruz will be better than him at the end of the season,
I'm not sure.
better than his teammate. We don't know. That's why
Right.
I ask, and I think the answer is too many question marks to depend on a guy like Oneil Cruz when there's these other players to get like Jordan Romano, like pretty damn good closer for the Blue Jays. I like him. Zach Eflin, Tampa Bay Rays. That Tampa Bay pitching magic is a real thing. But again, these are guys going ahead of Cruz. But I'm just saying that these guys might be available when Oneil Cruz comes out to bat. Jazz Chisholm is the same situation, right? Raw, athletic. Everybody's getting a Jazz Chisholm Jr. because of the counting stats, but from a skill set, that important skill and craft set that you need to be a good baseball player, that's lacking with these two guys. So Gleyber Torres, I just asked. I mean, I just said that I think Gleyber Torres at this point has a pretty good handle of what it takes to be a consistent Major League Baseball hitter at this point of his career, where Oneil Cruz is still learning on the job. Yuri Perez, Joe Ryan, Justin Steele. Maybe I'll take Oneil Cruz over Justin Steele. Joe Ryan, I know that's not a very sexy pick for a lot of guys, and I know you ask about him as well. But Joe Ryan, in a league
Well,
where pitching is at a premium, I think he's a pretty darn good pitcher to get, and you might be more better off getting a guy like Joe Ryan and filling out your starting rotation than going
well, there's
chasing
a
upside with
reason.
Oneil Cruz. Go ahead.
Well, there's a reason. So the first, people that the players that I mentioned to you was, Oneil Cruz, Bobby Miller, Cole Ragans, Bailey Ober, who's on both lists,
Yeah,
Julian and then Michael King. Those are just sleepers that I heard from Fantasy Pros and a couple different podcasts.
yeah,
So that's why I was questioning. And then I listened to another podcast the other day about the 13 undervalued players. They had Ryan Bloom on. Um, I follow him on Twitter now. I think it's Ryan Bloomberg or Bloom something. But
that sounds familiar. Go ahead.
so he, had like the list. That's why I put you the list of like, Xander Bogaerts, Joe Ryan, and they just were saying that like they're just undervalued players that like people
Yeah,
don't value what they can actually bring to the table. So for example, like Joe Ryan, he has a great low walk rate, but the issue is the amount of home runs he gives up. So that's where
yeah,
like the
yeah.
gambling with him, on that situation. They brought up the outfielder from I think it's the Dodgers, Teoscar Tis.
Teoscar Hernandez and his high
Yeah,
strikeouts, right?
yeah. So his ADP was like 130,
Hmm.
but he hits near, 28 home runs. So if you're in that position in the draft and you're looking for a home run hitter, that's the kind of guy to go for, even though you're worried about his strikeouts. Like, so I'm just trying to learn this. That's why I was asking you for your opinion, because I trust you I mean, those guys are great experts too, but I want your
Yeah,
opinion on this type of stuff. So these just undervalued players that, are basically being, I guess they were saying that they're being looked over
yeah,
rather
yeah.
than being valued for what they can bring to the table.
All right. Well, you mentioned Joe Ryan giving up a lot of home. Yeah, he's expected to give up, be in the top 10 among the worst pitchers to give up home runs. So is Garrett Cole.
Right.
So let's not draft Garrett Cole then,
No, no, no. Right.
right?
No.
I mean, Max Scherzer at one point of his career was giving up 35 home runs a season, just because. I mean, the home runs are going to be given. The way I look at home runs given up is the same way I look at NBA centers getting dunked on. It's going to happen. You could
Right,
do
of course.
all, yeah. Now, as you can see, there is some consistency about these players. Josiah Gray, bad. Kyle Freeland, no, don't get him. Patrick Corbin, bad. Lucas Giolito, bad. Aaron Nola, depending. I mean, yeah, he's getting older and he's becoming an extremely crafty pitcher as the years go on, like relying less on his fastball and more on his secondary, what traditionally would be secondary and tertiary pitches like his curveball. But I mean, shit, the Phillies always have a chance to be a threat to make the World Series every damn year because of Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. But he's going to give up 26 home runs apparently. So don't draft Aaron Nola then, right? Logan Gilbert. There's concerns with Logan Gilbert though, because I feel like this stuff isn't as good as advertised. That the Mariners are so entrenched on training these guys to be high command artists that the stuff isn't as lightning as it should be. And he plays in a very pitcher friendly ballpark in Seattle, but he's going to be top 10 in home runs as well. So, but the bad pitchers are bad because they're bad. The good pitchers, despite the fact that they give up a lot of home runs, they're still good. I think
Well, and it can't be perfect either. Just, I mean, like
there's
look
gonna
at
be
Garrett
flaws to
Cole,
these
for instance.
guys.
He's going to give up home runs. I mean, especially where Yankee Stadium is facing left-handed pitching. I mean, come on.
In points leagues, Joe Ryan. Now again, these are just projections, so you tell me if you believe in those projections or not. But in my points league, he's a top 25 pitcher. I would take him over Dylan Cease. I wouldn't take him over Tyler Glasnow. Maybe I would take him over Chris Bassett. And definitely take him over Terry Scubo. I never liked Merrill Kelly, but I've been trying to train myself to accept
Kelly's on
Merrill
my
Kelly.
list.
Yeah.
Kelly's on the list, and I'll
Yeah,
tell
he
you
showed me
what.
some things last year. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, he said that he's an inning eater. He's boring. That's what their thing is. Their outlook on him. He's boring, but he eats innings, and someone that's reliable. When you hit like mid-season and you need a pitcher badly, he's still there. So um forgive me, I forgot what does ECR mean? Do you remember that?
Expert consensus rankings.
Right.
So
So
the
he was at 148, which was I guess was better than the ADP. So that's
I'm
just the
sorry,
notes I took.
who was at 148? I'm sorry.
Merrill Kelly.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, but again, nothing, phenomenal about him, but he just eats innings supposedly. So,
Yeah, but as you can see, the average draft position has Joe Ryan as a 91th best player going. I would take him over Justin Steele. If you guys can see my screen, I'm looking at ADP now. I would easily take him without hesitation over Justin Steele, over Alexis Diaz, the closer. Definitely over Dylan Cease, who I'm not very high on. I just think that it might be time for the White Sox to consider him being the closer. If they're not gonna, they want a hefty price for Dylan Cease, they're not gonna get it. Xander Bogaerts, yeah, playing with a Xander Bogaerts playing, and that's another guy you had questions about. Xander Bogaerts playing on what looks to be a pitcher-friendly ballpark. The one thing I do like about Xander Bogaerts coming in is it sounds like he's going to be the everyday second baseman. He's already listed as a shortstop, so Xander
right,
Bogaerts at second base suddenly becomes a player that I want.
right, and he's possible 2020 guy with high batting average. So that's
Yeah,
why that's what they were talking about with him.
yeah, but do I believe he could be that guy at this point? I think a lot of the stuff that happened with Xander Bogaerts when he was in Boston, where at one point he was like the guy to get if you were looking for doubles. Like he was the most consistent doubles machine out there for a point in his career. Why? And it's a lot of it has to do with the Green Monster. I don't think you know the Padres ballpark plays up to his strengths. But as you can see, points leagues, they still Ariel Cohen still believes in him, top 45 player, ahead of Mike Trout, Dansby Swanson, guys like of that nature, right? So again, it just depends if you believe in. I will be very conservative with Xander Bogaerts just because of the situation that he's in right now in San Diego. But you can't deny that he can potentially get to a 279 batting average. If you're in an on base league, he can get to a 348 on base. 784 for a shortstop in terms of the ops, the on base plus slugging percentage. That's respectable. 340 WOBA, 115 WRC plus. That's a 15% better than league average. Uh, and so, yeah. And so maybe we are selling him a little low. Fantasy leaguers are, but for good reason. And it's because San Diego is proving to be not a very happy place to play, apparently. And I still think it's a pitcher friendly ballpark, despite the fact that they tried moving in the fences almost a decade ago. And you're still getting the same results because of all the reasons we talked about in previous episodes. Southern California, sea level, denser air, you know, and tougher matchups too. The Diamondbacks, Giants, the Dodgers, they come packing with pitchers. Well, maybe not so much the Giants, but you play in San Francisco, yeah, you're not. There's a reason why JD Martinez did not want to play with them, despite the fact that they were offering him a lot of money to play for them. JD Martinez look at that ballpark and he says, "Nah," and probably the high standard of living in San Francisco. And JD Martinez probably went, "No, man, I'm not moving here. Screw this." But I would take who are we talking about? Oh, Xander Bogaerts, right? So I guess I would take Xander Bogaerts over Joe Ryan. Uh, do I take Joe Ryan over Tristan Cassis? I do love me some Tristan Cassis. So in that regard, I would take Tristan Cassis over Joe Ryan. But I think Joe Ryan over Spencer Steer, the Reds utility player there. I think I would take Joe Ryan over Spencer Steer, even though I like Spencer Steer. I think I would take Xander Bogaerts over Spencer Steer. Definitely take both Ryan and Bogarts over Ketel Marte, Joe Musgrove. And then we get to this guy, Cole Ragans, is another guy you asked about. I've been very adamant that I do not want anything to do with Cole Ragans. Nothing.
Interesting. Okay.
But like you're just like you. Every fantasy podcast I listen to is constantly singing the praises
Yeah,
of
I
Cole
couldn't believe
Ragans.
it. Yeah, I
And
was
then I'm finding out in spring training that he's lighting up that radar gun. So now you got my interest. So I've been moving him up a little bit in in some of my baseball leagues, just because now I'm intrigued. Oops, wrong thing there. Let's see what the Ariel Cohen projection state, and he's out there top 40 and well close to top 40 in points leagues according to my calculations. And unfortunately, I don't want to bore you guys with what all these other numbers mean, but just know that, yeah, 10-9 record, 11 quality start. Well, that's a little low, but then maybe that's the other scarce statistic, right, Harry? Quality starts. Let's find out since we're here. 17 is supposed to be the league leader, and Garrett Cole's supposed to get that, despite the fact that he's going to give up 26 home runs. Um, so 17, how low do you want to go? Like, what's a respectable amount of quality starts you would want to get from your pitchers in 2024? Like, would you say 10, 9, 8? Well, like, how many? Well, how low
I
do you
think
want
you
to go?
have to have at least near 10. No.
All right. Well, 69 pitchers. That's a nice number. 69 pitchers are projected to get um 10 quality starts according to Ariel Cohen's system, the
Wow.
ATC projections. 69 out of how many pitchers are here? A lot. So, and Cole Ragans is one of those pitchers, right?
He is.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for this thing to load. I think I'm almost breaking my computer here with all the stats that I'm trying to run here. Here it is. Cole Ragans, number 41. 390 ERA, that'll play. 128 whip, that'll play. I mean, it's pretty high, but for a Royals pitcher, you'll take that. 390 FIP, hey, it's below 4, you'll take that. And he was projected to do some relief pitching time, but at this point, he has to be the unquestionable ace of that team. 159 innings pitched though, so that tells me that they're still working on his arm strength, because I think he came up as a relief pitcher last year before the Royals thought, hey, we got something here. And I think he was part of that Aroldis Chapman trade with the Rangers last season as well. 170 strikeouts. I mean, the walk rate is a little high, but I expect that from a guy learning how to be a starting pitcher. So the strikeout per walk rate is pretty low at 260. I like to have that at least at 3 and above, the K per walk rate that you see there. That's
Yep.
highlighted. But, bare minimum 25% strikeout rates. I would love for all my starting pitchers to have that bare minimum. They're not all gonna get it, but it'd be nice to have. So the projections are very kind to Cole Ragans. And maybe I am shortchanging it. Like I said, I have been moving him up. So let's go back to ADP, where he is at number 100. I think I would definitely. Where is he? There he is. Let me turn this off. I think I would take Cole Ragans over Musgrove. I would take him over Ketel Marte. I would take him over Spencer Steer. I'm hesitant because I love Tristan Casas so much. I want to make sure I get him at first base. But I definitely would take him over Dylan Cease, even though they're probably going through the same rigors of you know, of starting pitching. Dylan Cease is hitting that wall, and all the things that made Dylan Cease a questionable prospect for years with the Cubs and a little bit with the White Sox are coming to fruition. Maybe he's a bounce back candidate. I don't know, but I just know that he's always had command issues, and I want to get away from that. So maybe in that regard, I would take Cole Ragans over Dylan Cease. So I'll let someone else take Dylan Cease. I think I would take Cole Ragans over Alexis Diaz, over Justin Steele. But I love Joe Ryan so much. There's my stop. I'm not taking Cole Ragans over Joe Ryan. I just love Joe Ryan too much. Definitely take him over Castellanos. Definitely take him over George Springer. I'm talking about Cole Ragans again. Take him over Gianni Diaz. Take him over Tanner Bidey. Take him over, maybe not Paul Sewald. It's closer for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think Paul Sewald's going to be the most valuable relief pitcher you can get this season. And I'll tell you why in just a bit.
Really?
I'll tell you why. I mentioned this to Corey last week, the last time we were talking here. He's a big Diamondbacks fan, and I think he was shocked to how much I love Paul Sewald. I always liked Paul Sewald, even with the Mariners. But the problem with the Mariners is that they got so many bullpen options, and they had Andres Munoz as well, and they clearly they saw Andres Munoz being the ninth inning guy. That's why they basically told Paul Sewell to take a hike, and Paul Sewell became just the guy that put everything else in motion for that Diamondbacks bullpen, where everybody now knows their role. They can come in and they now expect, oh, I'm the seventh inning guy. I'm expected to pitch in the seventh inning. I'm the eighth inning guy. I expect to, no more closer by committee. Paul Sewell is the unquestionable closer for the Diamondbacks. And I still think the Diamondbacks are still a raw young team that has to they're gonna learn how to win a lot of tight ball games. And when you have a team like that is gonna have to expect to win a lot of tight ball games, you need that. You're gonna depend on this guy, a Paul Sewell, to come in and shut the effing door down. Right? I would
Yeah.
not be surprised if he gets to 40 saves. Some people are looking at me like, wow, that's crazy, Felipe. That's a lot. But that's how much I like Paul Sewell. I like the situation. And he's I know that Cole Ragans is not a relief pitcher, but he's going after Paul Sewell going after the top 10 is just crazy to me. Crazy. I would take Paul Sewell over Alexis Diaz easily. Yeah, okay. So there's that. I mean, these are some good names, but I think I would take Sewell over Alexis Diaz and put him in my top 10 because Diaz has some issues of his own and he plays in a hitter friendly ballpark as well. So go ahead. I'm sorry. I've been talking a lot. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm just listening and learning. That's all.
All right. I just don't want this to be all about Felipe just hogs up the air mic or the mic or the air or the I can't think
No,
anything.
I'll interrupt you if I find something. But no, I'm
Fair.
just learning.
Well, fair enough, fair enough. I'm also stalling a little bit because I want to see where Paul Sewell projects because I don't have it on the spreadsheet, so I have to go on the website. So just bear with me. But I do like Paul. I do like Andres Munoz as well, but Munoz is coming with some injury risk. I don't care. Team Mexico for life. Let's go. Even though he didn't play in the WBC, he's still Mexican. He was still there in my mind. I am a big homer for that Team Mexico WBC World Baseball Classic. Oh, there it is. Relief pitching. That's what I want to look at. So these are the ATC projections available at Fangraphs. And let's see, Paul Sewald. Wow, even Ariel doesn't like him. Where the hell is he? I don't see him. Do you see him?
I don't see him.
Okay, well, okay. Well, this is based on war, but we don't care about war. We want saves. Yeah. Ariel also believes that he'll be a top 12 relief pitcher. I think I would take Sewell over Kenley Jansen over Alexis Diaz, not over Jordan Romano. I feel like Sewell has a little bit of flaws compared to Jordan Romano and all these other guys. But yeah, after all of these guys are gone, Sewell will be had at a value on a really good team. I think he'll be in a lot of close games where they have to depend on him to close the door in the ninth inning. So I think that's the sleeper that people are ignoring at this point. So I understand why he's outside of the top 10, but I definitely would sneak him in my top 10 over these guys right here, Diaz and Jansen. Definitely over Peter Fairbanks. I just don't like what the Rays do with their closer situation. It's just too many. Now, if I'm in a whole league, yeah, give me all the Rays players, all the Rays pitchers, but on a saves only league, I'm avoiding that like the plague. I might be wrong, but I don't want committees, man. So I don't want to deal with that nonsense. Anyway, why are we oh right, because why are we talking about Paul Sewell? Because we were looking at the overall and we were thinking about who we would draft ahead of or who would we get Cole Ragans over, right? We would draft Cole Ragans over a lot of guys, but I wouldn't take him over Paul Sewell. That's just me though. You guys can do whatever you want, but I
Not
would.
Paul Sewell, not Joe Ryan, right?
Yeah, I just like Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan's I think his control is just too valuable. Now people would come back. Well, you're screwing the pooch here, but I don't care. Joe Ryan's a guy I've been keeping an eye on for years, and after the way I see it, I've known about him for so long. It's now taking even some of the fantasy experts this long to realize that Joe Ryan is a bona fide starting pitcher, but they want to bring up home runs. All right, well then I'll take that risk. Do I take Cole Rings over Evan Carter? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I mean, they both have about equal amount of time, relatively speaking, in Major League Baseball. But Ragans has a slight edge, and he's a pitcher, so if there's a little bit more. If both of these guys are high risk because of their lack of experience, then I'll take Ragans as the pitcher because good pitching always beats good hitting, right? And Evan Carter, if Evan Carter fails in Texas, the Rangers they have options, right? They'll easily replace him. They don't have time to grow a player like Evan Carter's stature for too long because they do have options and they're in win now mode. They got a championship to defend. So, and yeah, all these other guys, Bryson Stott, Seiza Suzuki, even Sonny Gray. I do love Sonny Gray, but I think at this point, you would easily take the high upside of Cole Ragans. So I hope that answers your questions about Cole Ragans.
Yeah, it does.
Who's the other guy? Bobby Miller. Oh man, I love me some Bobby Miller last year. He was in my top 5, I believe, in my prospects list last year, which segues to Manny's question about who will be the best Miller: Bobby Miller, Mason Miller, or Bryce Miller. Looks like Mason Miller is projected to be the default closer in Oakland, which that's just crazy to me because this whole time people were hyping up Mason Miller as the guy for the Oakland to take that starting rotation from being like subpar, awful, the worst thing imaginable in the world to now being the closer because of injuries, inconsistencies, and he just doesn't have the command. Basically the Dylan Cease of the Oakland Athletics, right? So Oakland is basically nipping that in the butt. I don't even have Mason Miller on this list because he's going to be on the relief pitcher list. So as soon as I get that up and running, he'll be on that list. He's projected to get 18 saves according to the roster resource Fangraph step chart. So if you believe in Mason Miller, go ahead. I mean, the way I think of Mason Miller as Cole Ragans going completely wrong, right? But Cole Ragans showed that he can survive every 5 days as a starting pitcher last year. Mason Miller could not. Like, so that's why Mason Miller is now on the bullpen, and he pitches for a bad team. So if the question is who's the best Miller, I would put Mason Miller at the number 3 spot. Now it just leaves us with Bobby Miller and Bryce Miller. There's Bobby Miller, top 36 pitcher in fantasy points according to ATC projections, and Bryce Miller, who's number 77. Bobby Miller plays on a better better team. And he's more refined than Bryce Miller. I think Bryce Miller's still I love Bryce Miller, but he's still a work in progress. But would I take Bryce Miller over Taijuan Walker, over Brady Singer, over Patrick Sandoval, over Sean Manaea, over Nestor Cortez? You're damn right I will. I am taking Bryce Miller over all of these guys, except maybe even Tristan McKenzie. I'll take him, Bryce Miller. I'll take Bryce Miller over Mackenzie Gore, over Dane Dunning, maybe not over Brian Wu, his teammate. So, but these guys, I'm telling you right now, if there's a pair of pitchers you want to get in baseball, these are the guys I'm trying to get in baseball: Bryce Miller and Brian Wu. Just the high strikeouts are there. There is potential that they can control their pitches. It's the Mariners, so you know they've been known to develop their pitchers just the quote unquote right way. And like I think I talked to you about this last time, is the Mariners all they do is make sure that you have a good fastball, good secondary pitches, but can you command? Do you have good command? Because we're not spending all this money on guys who can't command their pitches. And I think Bryce Miller and Brian Wu are a product of that. So I'm all in on those guys. So yeah, actually these guys are ranked really low. Bryce Miller and Brian Wu. I would take these guys over a lot of the guys on the bottom of that list, as you see right there. Oh yeah, easily. I would push these guys way up in top 60. That's just me though. I love those guys. What does ADP say though? Let's go back to the ADP page. Hope you guys are having fun with me just going back and forth with these windows, right? I go from the spreadsheet to the website. All right, so who's the first guy? Bryce Miller, right? Number 180. That's criminal, man. That's to me, that's criminal. I would take him. I would take Bryce Miller over James Outman, over Nolan Gorman, or Jackson Holiday might be the wild card here. That might be the wild card. And you, well, I guess someone should have Jackson Holiday on their team, right? In your league,
Probably.
yeah. So Darvish, I think Darvish might have a bounce back year this year. But do I want to depend on a guy in his late 30s pitching on a very suspect team? Probably not. So Bryce Miller it is. Go ahead.
that's the thing in my league that like you don't have to, keep your keepers until March 17th, and then the draft is the 24th. So I really, it's tough to for me to kind of scout where I want to go
Yeah.
with things with I don't know who's keeping what. So it's
Hmm.
kind of tough.
Well, and again, you go back to your projections, your visualization, your guts. I mean,
Yeah.
all the yeah,
Yeah, I'm just saying it's just a waiting game until I can
yeah,
get there.
same. I mean, I'm in the same situation you are with my other keeper league. But I just I treat everything like everything's a fresh start, and then I'll worry about who's being kept later. You know, so Bryce Miller, he might be someone's keeper in a lot of leagues, but if this was a redraft league, I would take Bryce Miller over all these guys that you see here. Maybe not Hunter Brown, but maybe up to Tommy Edman, I would take him. Definitely over Jake Berger. I'm not a fan of Jake Berger. So yeah, and then Christian Javier, I think that's a tough one. I mean, that's a
That,
good trio of pitchers though. Christian Javier, Hunter Brown, and Bryce Miller. Go ahead. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
no, it's fine. Jake Berger's on the undervalued list as well. It's funny.
Yeah, I know people love Jake. Man, I just seeing him with the White Sox, he just doesn't do anything for me. And oh, well, Felipe, you're missing on the home runs. That's fine. You guys go ahead and get your home runs. I'm not. I'm not depending on a guy who all that's it's a one-dimensional player. All he does is hit home runs. Felipe, you're being stupid. That's an important thing about. I'm sorry. Let's go. Let's take a look. ATC projections. Oh, wrong spreadsheet. Hold on a bit. Where is Jake Berger on this list? I'm pretty sure he's ranked high. Number 91. 250. Yeah, number 91 overall in fantasy points. 30 home run, no stolen bases. But there, 311 on base. Can't live with that. I can't do it. I can't do it. 790. Okay, 790 is respectable, but 790 from a power guy. I'm sorry, dude. If you're supposed to have all this power, you should be over 800. You should be where Marcelo Zuna is at 807.
Doesn't he
And
play like third base, Berger?
she should, depending on your league, he
Yeah,
should
they're third.
qualify.
Yeah, third or first. I thought something like that. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so and he's a corner infielder too. I mean, I don't know. Not for me, man. I just can't. I can't win with him. I can't do it. Won't do it. I love quoting that Mike Singletary. I always butcher it though. I'm pretty sure that's not the way you do it. What else? Where's his isolated? Yeah, 27% strikeout. I can't live with that. Can't do it. The 228 isolated power is legit though. I mean, the guy it's all power and that's it. But he doesn't provide anything else. So just like there's one-dimensional players that stolen base, there is such a thing as one-dimensional players in my book from the home run perspective as well. And I don't want to deal with those guys. But I mean I'd rather have Isaac Paredes and like Isaac Paredes. Oh, come on, Felipe. But Isaac Paredes. I mean, well, let's take a look, right? We're looking at things. Okay, Berger might get you. Okay, the thing is that Berger is guaranteed playing time in Miami unless he gets hurt again or the Marlins just completely go youth movement. And then Berger gets traded to a good team where he's going to be a bench piece. And Paredes, as you know, with the Tampa Bay Rays, they shuffle their lineup a lot. They have players. They got Junior Caminero coming up. So is Paredes going to be the odd man out? But the thing about Paredes is he could play all over the infield. Maybe not shortstop, but he could play third base, second base, first base, maybe some outfield if you're lucky. So, but there is that playing time discrepancy. So that's why even though Berger I think he's a much poorer hitter than Paredes. He's gonna hit more singles, more doubles, hell, more triples, just because he plays in that gargantuan stadium, more home runs. So all the counting stats have it for Berger, even the batting average advantage Berger. But here's where it gets interesting. Paredes is supposed to have a bit higher on base percentage, similar ops, higher weighted on base average, despite the fact that Berger is supposed to have more counting stats in those power departments like doubles and triples and home runs. Paredes is supposed to do it on a slightly more consistent relatively to playing time on a slightly more consistent rate. WRC plus, which anything over 100 is good. So Jake Berger is projected to be 10% better than league average. Paredes is at 14% better than league average. And despite this WRC is the counting stat of WRC plus. Are you with me so far, Harry? I'm sorry,
Yep.
I didn't mean to turn this into a math test or a math
No, no,
quiz.
go ahead. No, I'm following.
Despite the fact that Berger has more playing time, it's not that big of a difference between 78.9 and 75.6, right? But the most important thing I love about Paredes is he knows his strike zone, man. He'll walk as much as he strikes out, and he won't strike out this many times.
Right, where
So you're getting,
Burgers walk rates were lower and his strikeout rates higher. It's terrible.
yeah, and similar isolated power. And guess what Paredes gives you? He gives you a chunk load of contact percentage. If you ever look at Paredes's contact rates, they're pretty high for a guy who all he does is that's another guy who all he does is goes out there and tries to hit home runs, but he gets more contact. And that's more of a Tampa Bay thing for putting him in a position to succeed. So the other thing you could come and tell me, well, that's the thing that he's not trusted enough to get that playing time, right? But the lack of playing time, and he's still getting similar power numbers, similar production as a Jake Burger, but without the strikeouts. Now, if you play in a roto league, by all means, get Burger, get a hot dog too, and a beer, Seth beer, and a Jake Fry. Me personally, I don't want any of that. I will live and die with Isaac Paredes every single day. And just out of curiosity, where is Isaac Paredes? Number 159. Where was Burger? I think he was in the top 100, right? Oh, 169. Oh, what the hell? Paredes is ranked higher? Well, there you go.
Wow.
There you go. Even the even the fantasy baseball league across all platforms do not want to deal with Jake Burger. So it's not just a me problem; it's an everybody problem here. And yeah, I think I would take down Jake Burger just a notch. Maybe I'll put him behind Hunter Brown, and maybe ahead of Tommy Edman. Despite the fact that Tommy Edman is projected to get stolen bases, but I'm very sour on him, and I don't think it. Yeah, I don't want to deal with Tommy Edman this year. So that's one other player down. Who else was on your list? Oh, did we talk about Bobby Miller? Oh, I said that Bobby Miller would be the best player, but I'm high on Bryce Miller. So, but
Right,
Bobby
that's
Miller,
what I
yeah.
think.
But Bobby Miller, last year he only played. I don't think he played the full season, and that was his first taste of Major League Baseball. I'm a little concerned that now he's going into uh, his first full season of Major League Baseball. Dodgers, they tend to baby their prospect pitchers. I mean, even when they baby them, they still get hurt. Tony Gonsolin is hurt. Um, Dustin May is hurt. So, and Walker Buehler got hurt, and he was, man, they took care of him. Clayton Kershaw's hurt, and they gave him a lot of time off. They started going with a 6-man rotation because of Clayton Kershaw late last season. But there he is, middle of the rotation, Bobby Miller. They're going to need him, but only projected to get 144 innings pitched. So it just depends. I'm skipping Bobby Miller.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but let's see. Where is Bobby Miller on this list? That's Bryce Miller, Mason Miller, Shelby Miller, Owen Miller, Bobby Miller, number 84. Okay, so he's not that far off. Kodai Senga's hurt. I think I would take David Bednar over Bobby Miller. Oneil Cruz. Oh, boy, I'm turning into Tony Romo here. That's one of them. It's one of them $100,000 questions. I think Bobby Miller, just because pitching is at a premium, I think I would roll the dice with Bobby Miller, and I'll regret it later.
You
I
take
did.
Bobby Miller over Joe Ryan?
I was just getting to that. Ah, shoot, man.
Sorry.
That's a tough one. Oh boy. Boy. I think for the price, this is a cop-out answer. I will skip on Bobby Miller and get somebody else like a David Bednar or if a Jordan Romano falls to me or if a Zach Eflin falls to me, I would take those guys over Bobby Miller. And I love Bobby Miller. I just don't like the situation. I would take a David Bednar. I might consider Oneil Cruz.
Yeah, you love Bednar. You brought that up
I
multiple times.
love the upside of Yuri Perez, but it's the same situation. But at least Bobby Miller plays for a winning team. but I think I'll just skip on all those. I might skip on Bobby Miller and take my chances on Joe Ryan later.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it just depends. Do you guys like any of these guys within a 5 pick radius? Is he better than Zach Eflin? I don't think he is at this point of his career. Not better than Jordan Romano. Jazz Chisholm, if he's healthy and his head's on straight, and you'll live with the bad rates and the high strikeouts for those home runs and stolen bases. Brian Reynolds is very steady. I don't even like Brian Reynolds, but if I want to play it safe, I'm picking Brian Reynolds over Bobby Miller. If I'm desperate for pitching, I'm picking Bobby Miller, right? But yeah, that's I don't know, man. Just having Bobby Miller, it's just I wouldn't feel comfortable. You know what I mean? Even if he's like
Yeah.
my second or third best pitcher on my team, Bobby Miller on my team is just something went wrong.
Okay. That's fair enough.
Yeah, and I like I said, I don't know, man. Mm.
What about Bailey Ober?
It's a guy I really love, and the price is right. And now I switched over to the starting pitcher list just to give me an idea. So he's going as the 24th best pitcher and 84th overall. I mean, I think Joe Ryan's more valuable. I think I would take Joe Musgrove this fight. I don't like Joe Musgrove this year, but the price is right compared to Bobby Miller. Same thing with Cole Ragans.
You take Ragans over Bobby Miller?
At this price, yeah.
Okay.
I think I would skip Bobby Miller to get Cole Ragans. I mean, it's the same situation. I know Bobby Miller plays for a winning team, but I think the Royals are just they got nothing to lose and they're just gonna use the crap out of him
Right.
and you'll get your counting stats in that way. I think Bobby Miller can provide you some decent rate stats. I think the frustration will be in the usage, right? Because the Dodgers they have so much depth. I could see where we had Bobby Miller slated to start on Tuesday, but we changed our minds. We're gonna have him give him an extra day of rest. We're gonna get him we get him starting on Thursday instead. And that just messes up everything about it, right? You just set your lineup and you thought you were gonna get a Tuesday Sunday matchup if you're in a weekly league.
Right.
Now you're only getting one start, and and it's against the Diamondbacks. Like, oh well, that's great.
Yeah, it's tough.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks so much, Dodgers. The Dodgers don't give a. Whereas Reagan's Royals have no choice. They got nobody. I think they're gonna give them. You might suffer a little bit, but you're gonna get your strikeouts. You're gonna get your innings pitched. The rate stats might suffer, but the potential's there, right? And like I said, I love Bobby Miller more than I like Cole Ragans, but at that price, I don't know. But again, these are tough questions to ask, and these are tough answers to give. I love Yuri Perez at 6'8", playing for the Marlins, but he's just as unproven as Bobby Miller. But I'm more excited
Right.
about getting Yuri Perez at as my 26th best pitcher at pick number 90 than I am about Bobby Miller six picks ahead of him. Joe Ryan is a guy I've been keeping an eye on for years. I'll take Bobby Miller over Justin Steele, though. I think Justin Steele was more fluky than good last year. I'll take Bobby Miller over Dylan Cease. Joe Musgrove at pick number 99. I think that's the price is right for him compared to Bobby Miller. I don't feel as good because of the upside, lack of upside, and Musgrove looked like he's exhausted at this point. And I don't know how much more he can give. But at pick number 99, price might be right. Same thing with Cole Ragans. I think I will take Bobby Miller over Tanner Bibee. I think Miller has more refinement. Sonny Gray, I loved Sonny Gray, but I think he's on a decline a little bit, and he's playing for a really bad Cardinals team. Price is right at pick number 110, but I think Bobby Miller might be the smarter play there. Chris Bassett is an innings eater, but he plays in a very tough division, very hitter-friendly division. But at pick number 117, the price is right, right? Pound for pound, is he better than Bobby Miller? I don't think he is. But you know what the Blue Jays are going to do with Chris Bassett? Every 5 days, you know where Chris Bassett's pitching.
Yeah, he's gonna go out there, right?
Same thing with Justin. Well, I don't know about Justin Verlander. Who knows Justin Verlander? But
How old is Verlander now? Like 38, 39, 40?
40-ish. Yeah,
Yeah, like he's up there, right?
he's up there in age. Yeah, I think he's 40, and I think he's coming back from injury. I forgot what the injury was. Um, Verlander, yeah, he's on the shelf at the moment with a shoulder soreness for the 41-year-old Justin Verlander.
Oof.
But as the 35th best pitcher at pick number 126, You would take him over. I think you have to take him over Hunter Green, over Walker Bueller, over Kyle Bradish, maybe over Merrill Kelly, maybe over Chris Sale. Even Justin Verlander at the age of 41 with shoulder soreness still is a more surefire selection than some of these guys that I just listed here. As you can see, pitching gets murky once you get to the top 40, once you get past the top 40, which brings us to Bailey Over, the 45th best pitcher, overall pick number 161. And we'll start wrapping up things. I know that we've been going for a long time here as well. Bailey Over, 6'9", 260-pounder, just like every Twins pitcher known to man, control artist. The strikeouts will be lacking, but he's not walking a lot of guys. The whip is going to be respectable. He had a whip of 1.07 last year.
Wow.
Yeah. Now ATC thinks there's going to be some regression, so they got him at 1.17 projection. I would be happy with a 111, 112 middle ground. You know, there's going to be a dip in strikeouts, but a guy that big with respectable stuff that he has and with the command that he has, I think he could. He can get as close to 9 strikeout per 9 innings, right? But the walks are going to be kept in check. The race stats are going to be. They should be good. What's his ERA projection? Where is it? Where the hell is it? Where the hell is it? Where the hell is it? There it is. Oh, 407. Okay, so the projections think there's going to be some regression there, but the Twins should be good, right? So run support's going to be there. I like him.
So you
I like him
him.
a lot. I like him a lot, especially compared to some of these other. I like Michael King too, but at least Ober has more experience as a starting rotation guy. I think Michael King is there. The Padres are using him out of desperation, and he's going to
He
learn.
he he was mentioned in the same
Yeah.
in the same podcast, like not even like 5 minutes apart, like very, very similar, conversation per se.
Mhm.
But kind of said the same thing you said, that it was kind of like a savior situation, kind of being used as a last resort type thing, rather than being, someone that was solidified in the rotation.
Cole Reagan's light, right?
Yeah.
Cole Reagan's light. The upside is there. I know the Yankee. I think he was a former Yankee player, right? I think he's a part of that Juan Soto deal.
Yep.
So the Yankees always liked him, but they just didn't. I mean, Michael King never helped himself because he was. There were times where he showed dominance, and other times where he just got shellacked. Sometimes, I mean, relative to his potential, just wasn't consistent enough. Excuse me, but I do like him with the Padres. I just think there's going to be a learning curve, but for the price at number 147, I think I would take Michael. I think I've moved him up in a lot of my rankings over some of these guys that are in front of him, like a Shane Bieber, Mitch Keller. Like I know that the Padres, I've mentioned how the Padres are a pretty toxic organization at this point. I used to be a big believer in them, but I think from a pitching standpoint, the Padres can still work wonders for pitchers like Michael King, right? Just because big ballpark, West Coast, sea level, all the things that we talked about. Number 3, just like Bobby Miller, the number 3 pitcher there. But you're getting him at what would that be? Almost 60 picks later, I think.
Can't beat that, actually.
I mean, and the projections are nice enough where you have to kind of buy in on that. 183 strikeouts and 156 innings pitch according to the depth chart projections over at Fangraphs with a 368 ERA. And you can say, well, that's because they think that he's going to be a relief pitcher. Nope, 24 game starts. So if he's going to be a relief pitcher, it's not going to be for long. And the Pirates don't have anyone else. I mean, Pedro Avila, who? Randy Vasquez. I know who that guy is. And I've actually moved him up a little bit in my rankings because of that situation. Luis Patino, I mean, I think his days as a starting pitcher are pretty much gone. He's listed as a long relief guy over at the Fangraphs roster resource. Let me show it to you guys. There's the bullpen for the San Diego Padres. I mean, it seems like it's going to be Michael King or bust. Where's the starting pitcher? Adrian Morejon. I mean, that's a guy that they've been waiting on since forever and a day. I think he's going to be in the bullpen if he ever gets called up. Johnny Brito. whatever. Jay Groom, that's you probably know him because of he was a Red Sox farmhand for a long time with a lot of
Yeah,
promise.
I
Yeah,
heard the
it's a
name.
Padres gonna. There's no way Jay Groom's better than Michael King. Glenn Otto, I think that's another former Yankee, former Ranger. I know Sean, my former podcast partner, loved him a lot when he was going up uh, the minor leagues for a while. He's always let you down once he gets a chance in the majors. I'd be shocked if Glenn Otto sees any time with the Padres this year. Or maybe I shouldn't because, you never know. But if it's because Michael King is inconsistent, so they got to bring up Glenn Otto, that would be the shocker. Like I would not be like nothing will shock me if Glenn Otto makes it and he's like a spot starter or as a bullpen guy. I can believe that. If he's in there because Michael King shot the bed, I would be really shocked. Yeah, Drew Thorpe is another guy. Yeah, the former Yankee farmhand. That's in Double A though. So do we do do we really want to trust a Double A guy to come in and save the Padres? No, it's the Michael King show. Let's go. Sorry, moving back up here. Moving back up here. I'm tired. The computer's tired. Michael King. There he is. Yeah, I mean, it's the Michael King show. There's no way. There's nobody out there for the Padres. They got to trust the guy unless they make a big trade or they sign Jordan Montgomery or a guy like that. So that's Michael King. The price is right. And yeah, so I would be very happy if I get a combination of these two guys here, Michael King and Bailey Over. But what about Jose Barrios? That's a tough one now, isn't it, Harry? And Carlos Rodon too. I mean, these are established starting pitching veterans. You know what to expect from them, but they do play in very tough divisions. I know that there's a more balanced schedule nowadays, but it's still pretty tough.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm not even sold on Carlos Rodon. Like
Yeah, there's
it's
injury
it's
concerns.
tough. Yeah,
And Jose Barrios, I mean, last year was a nice bounce back year, but can he do it again? I mean, people had given up on him, and they're not even sold but to the fact that guys like Michael King and Bailey Over are being drafted ahead of him. And there's upside guys like Bryce Miller, Gavin Williams there. Eduardo Rodriguez going to a better situation in Arizona now. You got the two Astros pitchers right here, Christian Javier and Hunter Brown. So I think if I'd be happy if I can get a combination of Michael King and Bailey Over on my teams to kind of solidify my rotation. Let's go back to the overall. Who were the other guys on that list? And we'll do a couple more and then we'll call it a day.
but on the original list I had for pitchers,
Whatever, whatever. Just give me a player, any player. I don't care.
oh, now that's it from the sleeper standpoint. Then we had the undervalued players. So like Bogarts, Ryan, which talked about
Yeah,
Hernandez,
we talked a little bit about same
talked
thing with
about
Jake Burger.
Berger. Nick Pivetta is on that list.
All
Bailey
right.
Ober, we already talked about Ober. Merrill Kelly, you really weren't a fan of, you said.
I'm learning, Carrie. I'm learning to accept Merrill Kelly into my life, but I mean, the situation has to be perfect for me. That's just me.
No, I get it.
But
The kid in San Francisco, Estrada, Thairo Estrada.
oh man,
He's on the undervalued list. Cedric Mullins.
yeah.
Um,
All right. So let me see if I can do lightning round. So you mentioned Edouard Julian as well. Potential high contact, like a Luis Arias, but with more counting stats avail production, right?
right.
That's that potential, but it's still he's gonna be learning on the job, and yeah, here it is. Let me go here. So six. I'd be shocked if he gets to 16 home runs, to be honest. But there's not much stolen base, even though he kind of profiles as a guy who should be stealing a lot of bases, just from a prospect rate standpoint. But yeah, he's supposed to be a high contact guy. Uh, who I believe he's the guy who limits the strikeouts for the Twins. If this thing could cooperate with me a little bit, let me see what this. Oh no, this is the guy who will walk a lot, but he'll also strike out a lot out of a second baseman.
That's not good.
I mean, the batting eye is respectable, and he's a prospect in learning. But that's the thing; you got to deal with those growing pains as he enters his first full season of Major League Baseball. If you believe that he's going to strike out 29% of the time out of a second baseman, then I don't want him. If you believe that his contact rates are going to be uh, high and that should lead to more batted balls and more singles and more production in that manner, then that's a guy you go and get. Me, I probably won't. Not this year. Not for me. And again, you got to ask yourself, well, who else is out there? I mean, Trevor Story, he might be a bounce back candidate. Wilson Contreras, you know how much I love Wilson Contreras, a catcher. I think he has one more good year out of. You can get one more good year out of him. Not a big fan of Luis Rengifo, but the Angels might not have anyone else there, so he might be a guy you might chase. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of any of these hitters anyway. So I guess in that regard, you take that high upside, but still, I mean, yeah, if I'm getting any of these players, I'm in deep trouble. If I'm stuck with any, I don't like any of these guys. I try to avoid. This is like the dead zone. This is the running back dead zone, right? It's the
Yeah,
hitting dead
gotcha.
zone. Um, so that's Edouard Julian. Who Nick Pivetta. Nick Pivetta is always a curious case because Nick Pivetta has always shown, even when he was at the Phillies, he's always been a guy that can get you all types of wonderful things. Like the rate stats are always through the roof. He, just always something holds him back. There's a 4.25 ERA projection, a 4.18 FIP projection, which for a guy with his skill set, the fact that he can't get anything below 4 is kind of a red flag. And we don't know what the Red Sox are doing. I think Pavetta might be in the rotation, but I wouldn't be surprised if Pavetta, we need you to be back in the bullpen. We need Garrett Whitlock to get more starts. So we're going to put you back in the bullpen. And so on paper, I do like Nick Pavetta's potential as a dependable starting pitcher. You know, there's a double-digit strikeout per 9. As you can see, Harry, he's the only guy in the sea of players that is projected to get double-digit strikeout per 9, aside from Hunter Green. But everybody else below 10, Pavetta, and all his shortcomings is supposed to be above 10 and 27% strikeout rate. But there's always something holding him back. And I mean, it's a $100,000 question, right? Do you get Nick Pivetta over Bobby Miller? I think in that point, I would get Bobby Miller over Nick Pivetta. I think I would get Bobby Miller over Jose Barrios. Do I get him over Eduardo Rodriguez? Mm, I I will reluctantly say pick Bobby Miller over Eduardo Rodriguez, right? But yeah,
Okay.
so Pavetta's a wild card, man. It just depends if you like the situation in Boston and if you think he's gonna be consistent and healthy enough to be there. Just know that the Red
These
Sox do have options. Go ahead.
these are just players that are undervalued per their ranking, like where they're being taken. That's what this is the whole episode that I listened
Yeah,
to
yeah,
was
yeah.
13
I
undervalued players. So it's
I
not
understand that. Yeah,
I'm not saying that any of them are, the right pick at that right spot. I'm just trying to feel out, you know, where I can get a steal from, you know what I mean, by
yeah,
trying to because I'm taking over a team that I
yeah.
didn't have last year. I mean, next year it all resets regardless, doesn't matter. So I'm
Right,
not
right,
stuck
right.
with them, after this. It's a whole refresh after this year. So I'm just trying to find a way of getting ahead. That's all.
Yeah, same thing. But I mean, I like Nick Pavetta. I don't know what to make of him. I mean, right now, he's penciled in as a number 2 guy according to Roster Resource, ahead of a project like Brian Bello, who's still working on that fastball command. A guy like Cutter Crawford, who saw time in the bullpen and then started. I mean, they go back and forth. Same thing with Tanner Hogue. They see time in the bullpen. They see time at starting. They see time in the bullpen. They see time. I don't know what the heck the Red Sox are doing, and they still got to figure out what to do with Garrett Whitlock. So I know they want him to be in the rotation, but they have no choice. They need the bullpen arm. But I could see a situation where Pavetta, Crawford, and Hook might go back and forth between. And can Pavetta stay healthy? That's the other thing, right? I mean, because he's always had high up, like relatively high upside, even with the Phillies. It's just it never amounts to anything. But I mean, here's the ADP. I mean, do I pick Pavetta over Eloy Jimenez? I don't think this. And that's another guy, Jimenez, Eloy Jimenez with the White Sox, injury risks, but you gotta love him as a hitter. He's just a really nice, pure hitter. And that might be the steal. Now, the problem with Eloy Jimenez is that he probably will only qualify at designated hitter. Here, they have him listed as a right fielder, which is bonkers to me.
Right, 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 right.
But if you're looking for a really good hitter, that might be the steal again. He's going really late in drafts. And because of the fact that he can stay healthy, he's for a lot of leagues he only qualifies as a designated hitter. People are scared to draft designated hitters because I understand it messes with their what's the word I'm looking for, with the versatility on their lineup. But just like Marcelo Zuna, I think he only qualified as designated hitter for a lot of leagues last year. He probably won you a lot of leagues last year, Marcelo Zuna, just from a DH standpoint. It doesn't stop people from getting Shohei Ohtani early in the draft. So Eloy Jimenez, I still believe he could still get you at his best case scenario upside, 30 home runs, 100 RBI. Even with a bad White Sox team, he's still the best pure hitter on that team. So he might be worth the price of admission. Nick Pivetta over Nate Ovaldi. Nate Ovaldi, I like a lot. Just can't stay healthy, and he's getting up there in age, and he was overused a lot. So Nick Pivetta seems to be the fresher arm coming into the season. So I think I can justify picking Nate Pivetta. But at the same time, if Ovaldi is healthy, he plays on a better team. Just depends if you believe that Ovaldi is healthy. I mean, he looked pretty bad last year, late in the season. Ovaldi did. August, September, I was benching him. I couldn't trust him anymore. So
Hmm.
Nate, is Nick Pivetta better than Nate Lowe? Nate Lowe is if he can go back to his 25 home runs and on a very powerful lineup with the Rangers, I think you would pick Nate Lowe. But Nate Lowe is starting to look like a soft hitting first baseman, like in the mold of Anthony Rizzo. And he's in his mid 20s. At least I can say, well, Rizzo's in his mid 30s, so age is catching up to him. At least I can use that as an excuse for Rizzo. What's Nate Lowe's excuse? Nate Lowe does play for on a gargantuan stadium, but I just don't know why he's not getting explosive numbers elsewhere. So that's
Right.
kind of a red flag for me. Willie Adames, low batting average guy, but he'll produce counting stats in other ways.
He's on the list too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
but then, do you get do you get Willie Adames, a sure-hand veteran, or Noelvi Marte? I think I would get Marte. I just love Noelvi Marte. He showed me some things last year in his short cup of coffee with the Reds last season.
That's the minor leaguer, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the kid we were talking about last time?
Yeah, he's on your team, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's one of my keepers.
Oh man, I think you're in for a nice surprise with him.
Yeah, he's one of my keepers.
Yeah. Nick Pivetta over Braxton Garrett for sure. Nick Pivetta over Jose Alvarado. If the Phillies are gonna go with him as the closer, I think you got to get Alvarado. Even though Alvarado, I like Alvarado as a seventh, eighth inning left-hand specialist. Not a big fan of him closing from a real perspective or a fantasy perspective. But if you're looking for saves late in the draft at pick number, what pick is this? Number
193.
193.
Yeah,
Yeah.
193.
You could do a lot worse. And looks like the Phillies don't have anyone else anyway. So yeah, I'll take those guys over Christopher Morel, Ryan Pepio, Logan. Catcher is important, but Logan Ohapi, as you know, is coming back from uh that shoulder that freak shoulder injury that he suffered at the hands of the Yankees last year. And it goes back to Thairo Estrada. It's one of those one-dimensional players I hate dealing with. Right, those are the guys we talked
Right.
about last time. And on top of that, he's not projected to get a lot of a high on base percentage. And it's the Giants. Yeah, they could tell me that Estrada is the starting second baseman all they want. But I know that the Giants like to now that Gabe Kapler's gone, and maybe they had a change of heart. Maybe they'll go with a more set traditional lineup. Let's take a look at the roster resource as this thing loads up a little bit. How does that lineup look like for the Giants? Jung Hoo Lee, but keep an eye on that guy. And very, very late in drafts. Don't sleep on him. He might be a thing in San Francisco. The one thing he has going is rookie, plays in San Francisco, but they gave him a lot of money, so I can see him just being out there and producing in other ways. He's not going to get a lot of home runs, obviously, playing in San Francisco. I don't think he's projected to get a lot of stolen bases either. Let me see. Yeah, 10 home runs, 5 stolen bases. But if you're in an on-base percentage league, that 350 and that 289, because I play in both batting average and on-base, this is going to do wonders for me. I don't care what counting stats you get for me. You're going to save my team posting a 289 batting average and a 350 on base with a very respectable 423 slugging percentage projection. I mean, I think you will take that and you'll just get production elsewhere in non-traditional ways. Like maybe he'll get more triples and more doubles. Definitely more singles. So there's Thairo Estrada, penciled in as a second baseman, right? 16 home runs, 20 stolen bases, but a 314 on base and a 260 batting average. So you're getting the counting stats out as a second baseman, but you're taking a hit at those rate stats. If you're happy to take those hits on the rate stats, by all means, have at it.
Well, I mean, I don't need a second baseman or a shortstop. I already got,
Yeah.
two keepers that, are pretty, in my opinion, studs. So It's just again someone that came up on the list, so I just wanted your input on him.
Yeah, and then Matt Chapman. I don't like Matt Chapman. This is a take the letter L and put it right in Scott Boris's forehead. His other client, JD Martinez, did not want to play here. As Manny says, you got to be a professional baseball player to afford living in San Francisco. Well, Matt Chapman, no one else wanted him but the Giants, so now he's stuck there. And I hope he likes that. I hope he makes the most out of that 2 year deal. I think he signed a 2 year deal with the Giants,
That was
right?
3 years.
Whatever. Oh, 3 year contract, whatever. I'm sure there's an out clause, but that's it. This is it for him. I don't think he's gonna get to 23 home runs. Like this is not a very good ballpark for him, and he strikes out a lot. Like the value for him is going to be on the defensive side, but as you know, defense, that's the first thing that goes. That's the first thing that's noticeable on the decline is the defense. And I mentioned Chapman and Marco Luciano, who's also a project in progress, because Thairo Estrada has can probably play all those other positions in the infield, and JD Davis is so the competition isn't as high because I mean Wilmer Flores can play second base, but at this point of his career, corner infield is more to his
I remember
comfort
Wilmer
level.
Flores. Wow,
Yeah,
he's still playing.
he's become a steady right-handed bat. I mean, look at this: 335 on base, 444 slugging percentage, a very formidable option against left-handed pitching. I depend on Wilmer Flores in a lot of my leagues just as temporary solutions and as a matchup guy. Yeah, if he's playing against lefties, I'm starting him. And if Chapman goes down, Wilmer Flores will be up there, so he's easily replaceable. Luciano, if Luciano sucks, then Thairo Estrada will go to short, and Wilmer Flores will play second. So Estrada seems to be the best infielder, but that's like saying, not to get political, but the Republican candidate and the Democratic candidate are the two best political candidates we have for president. That's not saying a lot. Many people will say, well, why don't we have more options? Well, because you have Thairo Estrada at second base. That's why.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So now that goes back to the question. Now, Thairo Estrada, you just saw that he can get you a lot of counting stats, but you will take a hit on those rate stats. Is he better than Brandon Nimmo? And who's another player? I thought I saw another player. Is he better than Brandon Nimmo? There's a guy who will keep your rate stats afloat, but won't give you much of counting stats, especially out of the home run and stolen base territory.
It
Do you
seems
want?
like Estrada's more of a roto player than he is
Yeah,
for a points player.
bingo. And in this projection does that theory hold water? Let's find out. Go back to the hitters, and I want to thank you for humoring me on this. I know this is not everybody's cup of tea here, but I live for this, and so I do thank you for joining us this morning, Harry, and kind of humoring me a little bit, and as we kind of answer some of these questions that people might have out there.
Mm.
So
And go
as
through my journey of returning to baseball.
as well, yeah, I mean that's all part of it. Thairo Estrada, 365 points is a projection. Who's the other guy? Nimmo.
Yeah, Nemo.
Nimmo surprisingly at 417
Right.
and a top 50 player compared to Estrada, who's at rank number 101. Why? Despite the fact that he's only projected to get a combination of home runs and a net stolen base of 21, whereas Estrada, I think he will be closer to 30 at this point. It's because he Nimmo can produce in other ways, like doubles, 5 triples, 19 home runs is nothing to sneeze about. He's not going to get you stolen bases, but if you play in a league like I do, where you get points for hit by pitch, you'll take those 12 points. Sure, why not? And the big whopping on base percentage, which I still think on base percentage it correlates to some aspect of points in points leagues and fantasy baseball in general. Maybe not roto leagues like traditional 5x5, but if you play like in a 12x12 categories league, I think a 362 on base percentage will play very nicely in those types of leagues, especially in 800 ops. I mean, Brandon Nimmo is a hitter's hitter, right? But it doesn't always translate to fantasy baseball success. But we always chase that white whale because you just saw those numbers.
Yeah.
But in traditionally speaking, 5x5, Estrada looks to be more of the power speed combination that people are always looking for. He's just not the guy I'm looking for. So, but yeah, I think across all leagues, regardless, I think I will take Nimmo just because he's just more consistent, more steady compared to Estrada.
Makes sense.
Riley Green, I mean, that's the big question. Do you take a Riley Green and his upside potential over Thairo Estrada? I do love Riley Green. I do love chasing for potential and upside. I don't like Thairo Estrada. Therefore, I'm taking Riley Green over Thairo Estrada. So that's just me though. That's just how my mind works. I think ADP also slightly picks would agree with me in that regard. Let's look at Riley Green, number 97. Thairo Estrada is number 101. What are the points? So 4-point advantage. We're close to 4-point advantage for Riley Green. But again, home runs and stolen bases, 31 for Thairo Estrada. Sorry, this is net stolen base. So 31 for Thairo Estrada, 24 for Riley Green. Riley Green is a work in progress for the Detroit Tigers, but Riley Green can probably he's gonna be there producing in other ways, just like Thairo Estrada. And he's younger. So if you're in a keeper dynasty league, you're starting out fresh. Riley Green is a player to get just for the upside potential. More triples for Riley Green, slightly more home runs for Riley Green. You know, RBI and runs, Riley Green. But again, Thairo Estrada's 23 stolen bases is what gives him the edge. But Riley Green, I don't think he's gonna hit 276. Riley Green is. I think he'll be closer to Thairo Estrada. But the fact that there's that upside from a guy who's still learning on the job is the reason why we chase that upside. I mean, that 276 batting average. Because again, that should at least translate into more singles and getting on base with batted balls. Plus, you take into account that 343 on base percentage. Again, that's higher than the 315 that Thairo Estrada is going to get you. Plus the 785 ops, which I still believe it correlates towards production in fantasy points leagues and category leagues and hell, any type of league at this point. I rather use ops and batting average and just solely depend on home runs and stolen bases than anything else. That's why you kind of roll the dice with the Riley Green over Thairo Estrada. Am I making sense here, Harry? I know
You are? No, you are. Makes a lot of sense.
And we'll finish with that. We can go on forever talking, but we got to stop somehow. I'm pretty sure that people are like, why do these guys talk so much? Well,
it's interesting stuff. What are you talking about?
It's baseball, man. It's awesome, man.
2 hours, I think, went by really quick.
I felt like we barely. I mean, we talk more about baseball cards than we talked about a lot of other things too. But thanks to everybody for tuning in. James, Jacob, I saw Melvin listening in while he gets his Saturday going. Manny, and all the people out there at the Baseball Life Facebook group. Continue the conversation over there. Any last words from you, Harry?
Thank you for having me. I will continue to do my research, and I'll let you know how I make out when I'm on next on the show.
And I'm so sorry. The other question you guys asked for, categories. What's the scarce commodity? I guess stolen. I was doing a little bit of research beforehand. I think there's going to be 110 players or more who are projected to hit over 25 home runs, but only 50 guys who will steal 25 stolen bases. Let me look at those numbers again. So I sort the home runs. Let's go by 20. Let's see how many hitters are projected to hit 20 home runs this year. 117. How many players are projected to get 20 stolen bases? 41.
Yeah.
But keep in mind that because of the new rules, my rule of thumb is I can be more selective as to who I want on my team. Because stolen bases can be had anywhere. Like, do I want to sacrifice my batting average for a Trevor Story who's projected to get 238? I don't think he's going to hit that low, especially in Boston. But maybe 250. I mean, do I sacrifice him over a guy like Nolan Jones or Luis Robert or Whit Merrifield? Well, maybe not Whit. That's a bad example. Or maybe I want to chase the upside that Evan Carter provides me, even though he's only going to get 18 stolen bases. I can see him get to 25 if everything else goes well. I'm sorry, that's Shohei Ohtani. Oh my God, I'm blind. But still, 18 stolen bases for Evan Carter. I still like his upside. I can see a world where Evan Carter can get you to 25 stolen bases and we'll leave Trevor Story in the dust and 254 batting average. I can see him get to 265 as well. So I think that's the one thing about these new rule changes. Yes, stolen bases is still a scarce commodity, but I think there's more options to get you stolen bases, and you can be more selective more than ever. Where you don't have to draft a guy like Harrison Bader, or a Zach Geloff who's going to kill your batting average, strikes out about a 30% rate. Or you don't have to just depend on a guy like Jake McCarthy. I like Jake McCarthy, but he has flaws in his swing and in his potential. Yeah, 259. The Diamondbacks also have a lot of options at outfield too. So you don't have to depend on Jake McCarthy. You can depend on guys on like like an Evan Carter, maybe a Steven Kwan, because at least he'll get you a nice batting and on base percentage. You know, Cody Bellinger gets you the power speed combination. And now we know what team you'll play for as well. So that would be the difference. And pitching is going to be at a premium, as we've talked about. I also did that's the same thing at starting pitching, innings pitch, right? I think that's going to be that's always going to be a scarce commodity moving forward because of the new rules that are opening up the offense, and just because the way pitching is being set up nowadays. Like, look, no one's gonna ATC projections. No one's gonna go over 200 innings pitched this year. Garrett Cole is the closest at 195, right? So, what's a nice number you would like to have from a starting pitcher in terms of innings pitched, there, Harry?
I was thinking around 170.
Well, okay, so
Is that too
uh,
high?
22 players are only, and that's what Kodai's saying. He's already out. So 21 players are projected to get to 170 innings pitched this year. I was
Interesting.
thinking more like 150. 150 would be a
I've
nice
heard,
threshold.
I've heard the
63,
number 150 before on some of the podcasts.
well, only 63 players, 63 starting pitchers. How many starting pitchers are out there? Let's see, you got 30 teams times 5 guys, 150. So not even half the league starting pitchers are going to finish up 150 innings pitched if you are to believe in those numbers.
And that's
So
barring injury too, right?
barring injury, barring replacements, yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, it's I mean, I got lucky last year in that in that one league I was telling you about. A lot of those guys stay healthy, and the guys that broke down, like the John Grays, the Nate Ovaldi, I was able to find replacements rather easily because I'm that good.
Or the
My,
other people was that bad. One of the two.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The other people in the league, were that bad at picking, holding pitchers.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a combination of things, right? I mean, but I mean, I was grateful that a lot of the guys I drafted were able to survive that long, so where I didn't have to depend on waiver wire. Because in the other leagues I was in, the waiver wire is it just keeps getting thinner and thinner. I complained about it in 21 and 22. Definitely no viable options as the year went on in the waiver wire in 2023. It just kept getting worse. And the last thing I want to point out was strikeouts, right? Pitching strikeouts. I know strikeouts, they're everywhere. So they're not pitching a lot of innings, but the strikeouts are there. Strikeouts are there. 7 guys are going to finish with 200 strikeouts. Maybe more if you want to include an Aaron Nola, a Freddie Peralta if he stays healthy, Zach Wheeler if he can pitch a little bit more, he can get to 200 strikeouts. Zach Gallen if he could pitch more innings, he gets Jesus Luzardo if he can. It all depends if they can pitch more. So the strikeouts are always going to be there, but it's the counting aspect of it. Because the rate stats are going to be there for pitch. I mean, pitchers will go out there and get us 8, 9 strikeouts every 5 innings. Right. But how many of those guys can, I mean, well, magic number 150. Again, 50 pitchers are supposed to get to 150 strikeouts. And there's our guy, Bobby Miller, at 149. So not even half the league's rotation is going to make it that far. So now I'm not saying you have to draft pitchers. You have to concentrate on pitchers. You have to concentrate on good pitchers. You have to figure out which pitchers are good and trustworthy and which ones are not. Nick Pivetta is on that, we talked about, is on that threshold. It's on that gray area.
Gotcha.
Right. But Tyler Glasnow, he can get there, but plenty of people are worried because can he pitch more than 130 innings? I'm all in on Tyler Glasnow. I'll live and die with that. I'll live and die with Tyler Glasnow over guys like Lucas Giolito and Mitch Keller. Go ahead.
But doesn't the Dodgers going to have a 6-man rotation again this year or no?
So far, they're only listed at 5. We can go back and we'll finish with that. Thank you for asking that question. That's a really good question. But I mean, they have the players to do a 6-man rotation. They really do. And they're gonna have to because they got a baby Walker Buehler, they got a baby Tyler Glasnow, they got a baby Bobby Miller, they got a baby Yamamoto. Their big investment out of Japan, their Japanese import. James Paxton, Emmett Sheehan. These are guys that are being baby. But so relatively speaking, if they want to win that division and make it to the playoffs again, they need to ride on Tyler Glasnow. Right? They cannot go 6 and 7-man rotation if they're expect. Now they do have a lot of good pitchers. I will give them that. But at some point, you need that stability every 5 days.
So Kershaw's injured and not with the Dodgers anymore?
No, he's signed with the Dodgers, but he is
Okay.
injured with shoulder. Yeah, he's been complaining about the shoulder injury for a while now, and I think he might not be back until August. So do not
Oh
draft.
wow.
Don't
No,
bother.
I didn't plan on drafting him.
But yeah, we're still waiting. Tony Gonsolin,
I'm actually
Dustin May,
dropping. I'm
Walker
actually
Buehler.
dropping Kershaw. Like he's one of the drops
Yeah.
from the roster from last year that I inherited that team.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. And those are the guys who are injured. I mean, that's a nice list of names, but who do we trust? Who's going to be out there? So then we got to look. Michael Grove is a guy that's been on these top 10 lists for the Dodgers. Gavin Stone is waiting for his turn. River Ryan is becoming a darling, and that's a guy I kind of missed out on. Well, he's going to be 26 this year, so my projection, my prospect list, you have to be 25 or younger. I got to have some sort of a cutoff. So he's going to enter his age 26 season before. So I usually do it before either June 1st or July 1st. I forgot which one. But River Ryan, keep keep that name in mind,
River
right?
Ryan.
River Ryan, like number 1 prospect for the Dodgers, 19th overall. A little too high for a 26-year-old, but that's a guy that they're gonna bring up to bring, like you mentioned, 6, 7-man rotations that the Dodgers like to do over there. So they have options, but ultimately, you have to ride your horses. Your horses are Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, and Bobby Miller. You cannot do this. You cannot keep playing it safe every year. And because when they do play it safe, Walker Buehler, hurt. Tony Gonsolin, hurt. Clayton Kershaw, hurt. Dustin May, hurt. At some point, you gotta do something. You gotta ride on your starting rotation. And the Dodgers are just lucky, not lucky, but we know what they can do from an organizational standpoint. So that's why they are able to live like that. But that division is getting tougher. I mean, look at the Diamondbacks. They should be pesky. The Padres are always going to be on a thorn on their side just because they still have some decent players on that team. We just saw them. And the Giants, they're the wild card. And everybody's just going to beat up on the Rockies, right? But I mean, if they want to win the division and make and automatically have a playoff spot where they can get those extra days of rest that they're looking for, you got to put out your best pitchers out there on a consistent basis every 5-6 days. But yeah, if you're going to do 7-8 day rotations, then that's just a nightmare to deal with. But I'm all in on Tyler Glasnow. I'll live and die with Tyler Glasnow just because. I mean, look at this craziness. Carry 183 strikeouts and only 147 innings pitched.
That's crazy.
I want in on that. I want to be on the ground floor of the Tyler Glasnow elevator. So anyway, that's a good place to start. Stop. Thank you so much for everybody that listened in. Thank you, Harry, for joining me this morning. I am Felipe. That's Harry. We will see you next time. Take care, everybody.